Hello, everybody. Beautiful, beautiful people. Hope you're all well. The signs are up already. And the first one here, Kimmy. Hi, Kimmy. Hi, Christine. Tootie Pip was just in the stream with me just now. Josie, never late. Always early. I need to watch your TikTok, Josie. She's got a TikTok at the minute with the San Francisco top on because they're playing tonight. So bang, bang. Good luck to the Niners tonight. Just Jurors. Welcome back, Just Jurors. Nunia. You see, all of these people come from our math stream. So, Nunez, if I can catch up, Erin Hack, Erin Hack, she's everywhere. She knows everybody and she's everywhere. Hi, Erin. Lovely to see you again. No, she doesn't. Hello, Moonflower. It's a lot of people here. If they're not here, you look at them. This is great, isn't it? The Zachariah, I was going to say bandwagon. They're not bandwagon. They're the stalwarts of the Zachariah cause. Do you know what I mean? All these people, Kimmy, Claudia, good evening, Claudia. Ruka, hello. Ruka Shroom. A new name for me, that is. Ruka Shroom, hello. Kim, hi, Ruka. It's great. Jesus, this chat is massive. Sorry. I'll go through you guys in a little bit, but I want to welcome Matt, obviously, here, because everyone knows Solomon. You all know Solomon. I mean, the whole reason here is Solomon. He's the main man, but we've got Matt here as well.
Howdy.
I want
So,
to point out that you do a weekly stream with this guy over here. I would hope that
yeah.
most of your stream knows him better than me. I'm just a clown on the internet trying to fight for my brother. He's actually doing this all the time, being here for you and your base. So so
Yeah.
don't give me too much credit, Dylan. That's my point. Like try and give him a little shovel a little bit more his way.
Yes, he'll get plenty. He'll get plenty without doubt. But there's a few people here that I know that maybe don't join us, and we'll go into who Matt is, what he's been through, and everything in a second. But he's got a story and a half, and the plan is today is to talk to Matt a little bit about his story. I want to talk about the media and also like his experiences in jail, what he went through, how we can help Zach from his perspective, and then we've got some stuff that I know Solomon wants to promote, and then we'll go in and we're going to challenge Solomon with some of the media stuff. We're going to be clipping some things out there as well from what mainstream media and also what other media outlets been saying about Zachariah and the trial and stuff like that as well. So, and if you've got any questions in chat as well, you know what to do. Just ask the questions. We'll get to them. We will get to them. It's just give us a little bit of time. The only caveat we got is I got two very sick guests today who both got sore throats and both are building up on coffee. So I've tried to speak a bit more because obviously you guys need to rest your throats a little bit as well. So they might have to go and make a pocket coffee or something like that. We'll still continue. It's all good. They will power through. So don't worry. We'll answer every single question you guys have. So yeah, so here we are. There are new names here. Ruka Shroom, never seen it before, but welcome Ruka. Kimmy, lots of these people are here regulars. Claudia, she's always on X tweeting about this case. Everything I know is through Claudia. So thank you, Claudia, for all your hard work out there. It's fantastic. Obviously, Lou's here. Lou's a reg as well. So just so you guys know as well, at the end of the stream, we will give away $35 to be spent in the Zachariah store. So it's up to you if you want to buy something from the store or if you want to just donate it straight up. It's up to you to Zachariah. But we will be basically giving away five $35 gifts. So that's a combination putting pressure on Josie because she's taking everyone's names in chat. She'll assign you a number, and Solomon will pick the numbers at the end. So if you don't get picked, it's nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean? So don't start on me. But yeah, we'll do that.
I also
Um,
don't know the numbers, so it's not like I have a secret message of someone sharing numbers with me. That's not happening.
no, that's true as well. Actually, it's all Josie, really, isn't it? So she's taking the names and signing the numbers. Hot man, but we're going to get into that now. There's so much people in chat. This is brilliant. I like to talk to everybody, but just too many of you at the minute. I'm trying to skip to see if there's people here I haven't said hello to. Hello, Dawn. Welcome back, Dawn. Lovely Dawn. Chrissy's here. Thanks, Chrissy, for being here. Ahern's, oh, Ahern's lovely. Ahern's, thank you for being here. I'm not seeing anyone here. Murph Surf, hello, Murph. Nice to see you, Murph. This way up, hello, fellow UK here. Ashley's in the house, so we can get started now. Nancy, hello. It's all the same names. Are really big supporters of Zachariah as well. We love Matt. Dave, hey Dave, go back, go. Emily's in the house. Sorry if I'm missing anybody. Jen, how come it's Jen? Hi everyone. Hi Jen, the better half of Solomon. Hello, how are you? Hope you're well. Just don't want to miss anyone out here. I think Pixie. Hello, Pixie. Lovely to see you, Pixie. Welcome. Mighty Meat. Hello, my friend, my twin brother. Jesus, never ended. Hello, Carol. I think, Carol, you know about this case, I think. I believe you do. We told you enough about it, so hopefully you're up to date with it. And I think we've got everybody here, I think. So that was, yeah. We'll get started now. Sorry, this is just too much for me speaking now. So, yeah, we could start with Matt. If you're okay, Matt, to start with your voice, and then we'll move on. Then you're okay. You're okay. You power
right.
through.
I'm a little squeaky,
You're
but
right.
I'm all right. We're gonna do it.
Cool. So, Matthew Moore, tell us a bit about you. Who are you? Why are you here? Why are we doing a case, a trial by you every week? Why are we doing this? What's happening with you? What are you up to?
I haven't prepared for this, so really quick. My wife, Emily Noble, in 2020, she had problems and she disappeared. And I got up one day and she just wasn't there. I called the cops. Cops showed up, looked around. Within 48 hours, I'm down at the police station, and they accused me of murder with no evidence, none. They just decided it was me. The lead detective it was his first homicide case. Very small town, Westerville, Ohio. There's no crime there. It's really nice. They investigated me for I think 13 months. A lot went on. Legal crap. I got a lawyer, and 13 months later, they arrested me for two counts of murder and 1 count of felonious assault. I spent 15 months in jail. I got a really good attorney. I had some money from my mother had passed and left me a really big inheritance, and I cashed it out and I gave it to some lawyers, and I got acquitted. I got lucky. I got acquitted, man. And it's been a while. I don't know. It's been over a year, and I'm getting on with my life, man. I review my trial with Dylan here every week. It's like therapy, man, because you guys know, it's intense when you're in the crosshairs of the government and they just fucking ruin you. They stole my home. I own my house. We owned our condo. That's gone because they can just do shit to you, when you're like a murder suspect. So I got cleaned out, but I'm not gonna complain, man, because I got found not guilty. So I got this new thing about life, and I'm just trying to make the best of what I just went through. I'm trying to figure out. I wrote a book. It's available on Amazon. It tells my side of the story, and I'm just out there doing. Whoever wants to talk about my case, I'm just trying to use it to help in some way, So and it helps me. It's like therapeutic to talk about it because it's almost unbelievable what they do to you. You guys know what they did to Zach, I'm sure. It's just you wouldn't believe it until it happens to you. You're just not gonna, probably don't even think it's real. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's real. So,
yeah, everybody thinks it's impossible until it's happening to them or someone they love.
You don't. If you're on the outside, everybody's like, you're crazy, you're paranoid, you're. It's not like that. Yeah. But when you're in it, you can see all the angles because they're not that smart, right? The cops aren't that bright. So you see what they're doing. They're lying. They're liars. It's crazy. Yeah. So that's my story. Real short. That's fine.
No, that's fine. When you say you lost everything, you literally lost everything. You've every cent that you had, every inheritance, Emily's money, the condo, lost everything. The only thing you had was
retired. Emily and I, we were modest, but we owned a home. Our home, we owned the cars. And we weren't big spenders. I retired at 49. I was done. It was great. I was just going to play guitar and take walks in the woods. We were like, you know, mellow people. And they came in and they just clean you out. They wipe me out.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's okay, you know, it's just money. But yeah, it's part of it. I'm sure you know, like when they investigate you, they put all this pressure on you, and that's part of the pressure to get you to do something stupid or, you know, to make you look guilty to the public. So they start doing all these things. All of a sudden I started receiving like paperwork from lawyers saying I didn't own my house and I had to move out. It was just another coordinated effort to climb in my head and get me to do something stupid. There's tons of other stuff going on, but yeah, I got wiped out. Absolutely. But I'm free, man. And it's just
to give a bit of concept as well, though, Matt. You know, I know, you know, we won't go too deep into it, but you also obviously lost 2 sons. I'm not sure if you want to just touch upon that, because obviously that impacted on this as well.
They used it against me. I lost both my sons. One son died of like a SIDS back in the 90s, and my second son, Joey, he got schizophrenia, and he ended up committing suicide. And so here I am with my wife dealing with all this, and she didn't make it. She couldn't deal with it. So, and she had problems of her own. So she committed suicide, and they used that against me. I mean, in the media so I was a serial killer. They tried to accuse me of killing my children with no evidence. There was never any investigation into whether they know how my kids died, but the media, and it's still out there. It's still on the internet. And there's still people that think that I'm a serial killer. So, and I'm sure you guys, the media is horrible, right? I mean, they're horrible people. I mean, what the fuck's the matter with you?
We'll get into the media stuff now. And also, whilst you're in prison, again, I don't want to do too deep. Obviously, you lost both your parents whilst you're in there as well. It's like, you know, you literally came out of prison with nothing. You know, so you lost everything, not just money, but family, everything. So again,
you lose your friends, you lose your family.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know, my circle got really small. I mean, I had a really great life. I had a huge family, and they go into your family and they spread dissent. They tell you, they take your friends, and they say, they try to convince them that you did this. It's part of their tactics, police tactics, and it ruins your life. It literally ruined my life. Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to be like, you know what I'm saying? In a lot of ways, it saved my life too, you know, because I'm like, I see this thing. I feel like my life is better in a lot of ways, as like direction, because I have direction now. It's because I'm trying to make something good out of this thing that I just experienced. But as far as in money and family and friends, they just wipe you out, man. Because everybody's afraid of the police. You know, you don't want the police fucking looking into you. So it's been, and I lost my mother to cancer in 18. Then my son committed suicide in 19, and then in 20, my wife commits suicide, and I start getting investigated. Within a year, I'm in jail, awaiting trial. My dad dies while I'm in jail, and I'm out of my mind. I don't know how your brother handled being in jail, but I didn't. I didn't do very well. I knew they used a jailhouse informant, right, in your brother's case.
Yeah, they did.
Who believes these people? He's a snitch. I got lucky. I mean, no one snitched on me, but I can't believe that people put any value in their testimony. I mean, what the fuck? He's a criminal.
I mean, to be fair, there's a pretty large body of legislative history of precedential cases that identify these jailhouse informants as being completely unreliable, and to the point where in some states they don't even let them testify.
Oh, good.
And that's not the case in Wisconsin, obviously, but there are some states where it's really it's not helping the state's case whatsoever, especially because the credibility of the witness is so questionable. And that was true in Zach's case. And I mean, you know, in the end of your experience, I'm sorry. I'm truly and deeply sorry. I mean, that's a real tragedy to lose everything and everyone. I'm really sorry for you.
And
that empathetically, not like sympathy. Like, right. I hope you understand.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's nice that I had a brother who died when we were kids. So I know that the bond that brothers have. I mean, you're going through it, man. You're going through it. And you're on the losing side of it. I mean, I got lucky. I got really lucky. I got a good jury and I had a good lawyer. And it was a flip of a quarter. I could be in prison right now for something I didn't do. So, I mean, anything I can do for you, anything that my story could help with you and your brother, I mean, you got it, man. I'll help you out. I don't know what I can do, but
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a story. Obviously, I'm streaming with Matt every single week. Go and buy his book if you can. It is a great book. But there's a lot more to it, and he goes into it in the book. Josie has posted that as well. So I reached out to Matt not long ago, a few months ago, and said to him, look, you're on your ass, you got no money, you got nothing. How about we do some fundraisers? And he turned around and said, don't do any fundraisers for me, do it all for Zach. So, this is his mentality. The fact that he's got freedom is enough for him. He doesn't need anything, just a roof over his head. He's got a car, a mobile phone, and that's it. So I'm grateful that you are coming through, giving us this insight of what you've been through, mate. So appreciate that. I want to go into this now. Yeah, thank you. What I want to do now is to go into some stuff about the media, right? So the whole purpose of today, or a little bit of purpose of today, is twofold. I want Matt to express some of the things that has come out about him on X, basically. Also, we'll do the same with Solomon. So what I'm going to try and do as well at the end of this stream is clip them all, so that we can tweet some stuff out about injustices and things like that. So they'll go around and answer all these tweets. Now, we'll go on to the whole Zach stuff after we're done with Matt. But this was his title, Stage Suicide Murder Trial. Obviously, you know what Zach had. So already, lone crime, as said, it's a stage suicide case done, basically. So these are some of the tweets that came out. So what we'll do, Matt, we'll go through some of these now and express. Some of them were during, some of them were afterwards, and things like that. I've obviously taken names out and stuff like that, but it'll give us a gist of how powerful X is, basically. So just to get out there, really, and say, look, this is your fellow tweeter, whatever you call them, Xer, whatever. This is the influence people have about this. So these mostly are after the trial, Matt. So the first one is he probably did it, but no evidence. Does that infuriate you? Because it infuriates me to see that.
It's them getting. It's them getting out of them making a shitty decision. They thought I was guilty, and they were oh, he's definitely guilty. And now that it's over and I was acquitted, it's a way for them to get out of admitting that they were wrong. Well, he's guilty, but they just didn't get enough evidence. Yeah, I hear that all the time. It doesn't. You get used to it, man. I mean, the shit they say online is crazy.
Yeah, I know. We've got some supporters. It's like this trial's intense.
Yes.
Great job for the defense.
Thank you, everybody out there, everyone that supports me. Thank you so much, man, because it makes up for all the bullshit. Just one. Now it's mostly all positive because I had a Dateline, and Dateline switched people's opinions about things. But before that, it would be just like one person would say something nice, and it would be like it would just mean the world to me. Positive, nice people, they're out there.
Yeah. So this is from someone from Westerville. This tweet, saying, Dateline, hi, can you let us know here in Westerville, Ohio, when to expect the episode about Emily Noble and her husband? I don't know why she's done that. Matthew Moore. I was part of the search groups, and we drove down the road. She was found 4 times that day. Windows down, no smell. Please let us know. Thank you.
You want me to respond to that?
Well, she said she went down there 4 times that day, and windows down, no smell. I'm not sure what she's trying to allude to.
She's not a cop. She doesn't know anything about searching for people. She doesn't know it. I mean, what does she know? It's
well, I mean, to my understanding, your wife was in the woods too, not like right on the road, and it takes time for someone who's passed to start to smell, and for that to smell to travel. So I don't know exactly what they're trying to imply.
She's implying that Emily was moved after the dog searched for her. So there's
Right.
foul play. That's what she's trying to say. Which is just someone that's like watches too many Datelines.
Right.
They're those people that are always coming up with these theories. Tracker dogs and cadaver dogs were all over that place, all over my condo. They passed her several times while she was in the woods. The dogs don't work. They don't. Some do, some don't. They're just unreliable.
Matt, have you seen there's like a series that talks about like junk forensic science. They actually did an episode about dogs. Did you watch that episode?
I've read things about dogs. I hear that they're getting people out. They're exonerating people because of that. Because they're now saying that the cadaver dogs don't work. All of a sudden, that's like, the only evidence they have. They're just like, there was a dead body in this guy's car. Obviously, it was him. And they're getting those people out of there. But like what Dylan's always saying, it takes 10 years, man.
Right.
It takes so long for this shit to work out. It's just because the prosecutors don't care. They'll lie. They'll do what they have to do to get the conviction and get you in there. And then it's up to you to show that it was a shitty trial. How long was your brother's trial?
It was 15 days of trial, and it was 33 months waiting for trial because there was one mistrial in between. And after about 2.5 years, they actually failed to file a motion to extend the speedy trial demand.
Right.
And so they violated his constitutional rights. And so they held him, violated his Sixth Amendment.
Absolutely.
And refused to release him, illegally incarcerating him, which is a Geneva Convention law violation, until his trial in March. So you had months of that where they were just like, well, we don't want to release him, so that's too bad. Right. And so 2 judges and the DA colluded to try and make sure that he stayed in jail, and the corporate counsel from the sheriff's department. So you have, a bunch of people that are supposed to be arbiters of the law, that their duty is to serve the people, but instead they approach the law like they are the law, and that they're going to rewrite the book, and that's not the intent of the legislation. And it's tragic. It's really tragic. And like you said, until you're in it, you don't really understand how bad it is. And I never knew that it was this bad until Zach's case.
It's amazing. You think you know how corrupt things are. Yeah, I know how corrupt things are. No, you don't.
No,
not until you're in there,
idea.
Man. Did they offer? Did he have bail? Did they offer him bail?
They've offered the first bail at $35,000, but then they also withheld charges. So they had charges waiting in another county to charge him, arrest him, and hold him again afterwards.
Right.
So then the question is, are they going to try and bait out more? Because the amount of money that they can take out of you is how much money you're not going to be able to use for your defense anymore. And so he said,
and then they rearrest you with other charges.
Yep, that's right. And
it's a scam.
So he said. Now there is a movement to make the bail bond system unconstitutional in the United States because it unfairly punishes the poor, and that isn't constitutional. So I'm interested in that. The criminal justice reform is something that I've now become involved in, and there's another case out of Kenosha, the Michael Bell shooting that we've actually started working with in discussions about corruption in the police force, corruption in multiple layers of government, and so we're looking at things with like a whole different set of eyes, and we're looking forward to being able to go public with a lot of the information that we're finding.
Good. It's good to hear, man. I heard you were a smart guy, and I heard you were doing things. It's really great to hear you talk like this. It's really super great.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look. Oh, damn. I thought it was bloody clever there. I readjusted us all, and then the next page is bugging me up. Hang on. There we are. A tragedy, no justice for Emily. Moved back to California. No more murders in Ohio. That pisses me off to see stuff like that. No words can explain my disbelief. I believe he did do it, but I can't change the verdict. We'll see how he acts in the next coming year or so. Just like the Florida case against a kid who was killed while walking home with his Arizona AZT. the guy kept getting into trouble. And we got here, it's just jury found Matthew Moore not guilty. He got away with murder. So sad. I mean, this is what we work with. How does that make you feel, Matt, in the sense of reading that?
Yeah, you don't trust the media. You when it happened to me, because my spouse went missing. There's other people out there that their spouses go missing, and we're a small group, and we kind of found each other. It's loosely affiliated. They treat us all the same. It's like they have a playbook. The police just do this. We all go through it. Even women. You're the closest and easiest way to close a case. It's because you're so close. There's so much information that they can use against you, and it doesn't have anything to do with solving the case. It's just closing it. And you say something like that to people, and they're just like, "You're paranoid." They're not cops. Are good. Cops are mostly good. There's just a few bad apples. No. It's a business, and their business is closing cases, and it's corrupt.
I mean, they say statistically, when a spouse goes missing, it's most likely the other half, right? Statistically.
That's what they want.
And I just had this conversation with Jen, actually, I think yesterday or the day before, and I said, yeah, but realistically, consider the rate of wrongful conviction, in the United States, in if it is the 6%, if we're looking at that in like the legitimately, 6% of all cases, then that number could be skewed easily by at least 6%. We don't even know what percentage of that is wrongfully convicted, and how many wrongful confessions they're even getting out of this, because they're breaking people. And that's the way that they're setting this up, where they isolate you in jail, and they take everything away from you, and they emotionally just strip you of everything to try and break you as a human, to get you to confess to something that you didn't do, just to make the suffering stop in the moment. And this whole thing that they do in our justice system is geared towards that. Like, it was so tragic. You just lost your wife. You had lost your son right before that. The cops didn't care. They still pursued you even without good evidence, and that itself shows their confirmation bias in looking for that, and looking for foul play. And there's a few cases in Wisconsin that we've actually gone into some details with that ran the same exact way. The cops just made up their mind that it had to be that way, and then they went to sell it to a jury. And a jury wants a good story, right? And it's like a flip of a coin whether or not a jury's going to convict you. And that's a huge issue, because reasonable doubt and civics courses are completely underexplained in our society, especially with the way our education system is set up now. So it's something that, like, the due diligence for our civic duty, and understanding what reasonable doubt really is, and what level of certainty you need to have in order to convict someone and take away their life, is not discussed enough. And I'm sorry, I'm soapboxing. This is your time to talk about your experience.
People need to hear it. They need to hear it. There's another point is what they'll do is they'll get your attorney. They'll put all this pressure on you, and you're like, "Fuck you! I'm innocent. There's no way you're ever I'm gonna say I'm guilty." And all of a sudden, you have your attorney come in. They can, and they're supposed to be representing you. You trust your attorney, and your attorney starts saying, "Hey, man, you're done. The best thing you can do is take a plea. Take the plea. Do it." I mean, what are you supposed to do as a person? Hey, you might get out. Well, the bottom number might be like 10 or 15. You might get out. If you get convicted, you're looking at the death penalty. Right. I mean, and then your lawyer starts, dude, there's no, they're going to convict you.
Getting into your head.
It's that, and I love my attorney in a way that she was so good and she got me off, but know that it's the same thing. They're all in on it together. I don't want to appear to be paranoid, or, you know what I mean? But it's literally, if you look at my case too, I mean, all cases, these guys are backroom deals are being made. There's a lot of different reasons why people get indicted or don't get indicted, or take a plea or don't take a plea. It's not so black and white, especially if you got an attorney attorneys they're slime bag. They're attorneys. So when you hear someone say, "Hey, the guy admitted to it," So so he's guilty. No, it's just they get people to do it because I mean, if you're looking at the death penalty, or they'll be like, well, you'll be out in 7 years sometimes, some low stupid number. Of course you're going to take that deal. Of course they
Yeah.
did.
And the problem with that is that the defense attorneys aren't even explaining to you exactly how sentencing goes, because depending on the state and how that's arranged, the judge can choose the sentencing, even if the prosecutor and the defense agree on a lower minimum sentence in a case. The judge can still overrule it and throw the max at you. So in that circumstance, like it's not playing the open game. They're not being fully representative of the situation. And we were just listening to an audiobook from the founder of the Innocence Project in California, where he talked about a case out of Michigan where a woman who was innocent of a crime took a plea deal for the death penalty, and she didn't understand what she had taken the deal for, and it took him 25 years to get her off of death row. And that's how crazy it is, and how manipulative the system can be. People really need to know. It's really important to understand that the system has checks and balances, but there's individuals and ineptitudes and just apathetic people in the system that refuse to do their diligence, and then the people that are supposed to check those people are also following suit with apathy and disinterest and lack of motivation to do what's right for the citizens. Instead, they're pushing people into incarceration for what means and why, and because that way politically they can look tough on crime, so they can get reelected. Like what is exactly their motive, and why aren't we trying to protect innocent people more voraciously? It's important.
It's I watched a little bit of when I saw your brother at his sentencing. This was before I knew anything, and I was in my thing, and I'm like, that dude's innocent. That dude's innocent. I'd see him around. You know what I mean? I was like, how he acted at his. I didn't know anything about him, but I was like, just seeing him at his sentencing. I was like, he's innocent. There was something wrong with your judge, man. What was his problem? Is he senile or something, or am I just like
a little bit? So before, there was actually he had fallen and sustained a head injury and had a few operations, and it had slowed the rate of speech, and he had troubles finding words. That was all on the record. He actually talked about having blood left over in his brain, like clots still in his brain, and he was having troubles word finding, and that was part of the delay and why they overshot the speedy trial demand in 2022. It was a huge deal, and so we had that, and beyond that, to a conversation that Zach and I had, uh, he is also the de facto standard for judicial prejudice in the state of Wisconsin. He was a judge for 40 years, and he was indicted for prejudice to the Wisconsin Supreme Court previously, and they ruled that he was a prejudiced judge. So you have a judge that is the literal standard of judicial prejudice operating in the courtroom, who's pro prosecutor, pro police, in a defense where it was undercut by not being able to present potential other bad actors intentionally by the judge, he did gatekeeping for information that could be presented by the defense, and he was pro police, so any criticism of the police he immediately shot down, and then let a bunch of other prejudicial information in to try and stack and sandbag against the defense. It was very clear, if you watch and you think about what he's doing in the rulings that he's making, in the decisions, and with an understanding of other acts evidence and what he's doing and how he's wording things, the things that he's allowing in front of the jury and decisions being made, it is crystal clear that he is absolutely allowing the jury to be prejudiced.
That means your brother's going to get a new trial,
if not thrown out altogether, because judicial prejudice means that that double jeopardy applies, and that they have to throw the case out. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say absolutely officially this is exactly what'll happen. because it has to go through litigation. People have to look at this with a critical eye and make the determinations in the next couple of years. But it's going to be years of my brother's life, more years of him not being with his children, and more years of injustice.
He looks like a solid guy. Is he okay? Is he doing sit-ups and push-ups?
He's doing. I mean, he's got his own cell in basketball, and he picked basketball so he didn't have to have a roommate.
Right.
And if you had experience having roommates, like I'm sure you did, when you're in with people who are criminals and you're not a criminal, it's unsettling. It creates a little bit of paranoia. You're worried about what people are doing. People are stealing things from you, and there's things like that going on in jail, and that's all intentional. And in Kenosha, they were putting him in with the people that they knew were the worst of the worst. They did it on purpose.
They did the same thing to me. They put me in a violent offender pod with arch criminals, like professional criminals. Yeah, I was out of my element. When I look at your brother, he looks like the type of guy that might be able to handle himself. I hope he is. I mean,
when he was younger and before he hurt his back, he actually trained striking for MMA fighters and stuff like that. So he could handle himself, but he was 40, like he was arrested when he was 39, right before his 40th birthday, and here we are, almost 4 years later.
Yeah. Wow. Let's have another look at some of these comments then. But it's going to be intertwined. This whole thing is going to be intertwined between Matt's case and Zach's case, and I know that Matt's got a lot of questions as well. Hopefully, you caught the episode last night. Really interesting, as I really think a defendant is not guilty, but I agree with the jury. It's good. What I love about America is that we have the right to agree to disagree and respect other people's opinions. Thank you for reaching out. Have a lovely day. This person's thinking, obviously, is innocent. This person's thinking, is Matt still guilty? This is a sensitive topic for me to share publicly. However, I will say that I can understand why the information that the jury received was enough to provide reasonable doubt. I hope that answers your question. She's just basically saying there's a lot more to it, but the jury never heard about it. It's like, why doing?
If there was any evidence that was going to convict me, it would have been at trial. They're just saying that. That's just nonsense. I mean, if there was some sort of physical evidence that they had against me, it would have been that. I'll say this: I had a judge. You couldn't have got a better one. I don't think you could have got a better judge. Judge Wohlaber. He came out of retirement. He was a retired judge. That might mean something, because the judge that was supposed to oversee my trial, he didn't have anything to do with my case, because there wasn't a case. You know what I mean? So they brought this other guy in who wasn't worried about anything getting elected. He did a fantastic job. I mean, he really did.
It's a really interesting thing. Like you talked about, like this person's talking about, like the evidence that wasn't allowed in. Well, that's a nonsensical argument, because the reality is that the judge and the prosecutor want everything that proves guilt into the trial, absolutely everything. And if there's something that isn't allowed, it's because it's irrelevant, it is unfairly prejudicial, and will violate your constitutional rights. Those are really the only exclusions that exist there. And the fact that they're making that argument is not even representative of the legal system. It doesn't make sense. They were going to throw everything that they had and could have at you to try and prove your guilt. And if they couldn't do that in the trial, it didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. So just speaking on your behalf, and for people watching trials trying to make this nonsensical claim out there, that's not how it works. Very, very specifically, the state is allowed to make whatever case they want, as long as it doesn't violate the defendant's rights. And that is really important to understand. So all of the information, whatever information that is out there, they're allowed to bring in. The defense doesn't have the same opportunity in the defense's case in chief, because the state can petition the court to say, look, it's not relevant to what's talked about. It doesn't matter if it shows X, Y, and Z. We're gonna claim that this is irrelevant and push it out. And so they will deny witnesses. They'll deny commentary about character witness and all kinds of things, depending on the judge. and the judge's willingness to allow and disallow different types of evidence. And that's what we're talking about, is that if you have a good judge, a judge that is willing to be fair with information and not gatekeep things that will make the defendant look like someone that isn't a horrible person, then you have a chance at a fair trial. But that's not how the system works most of the time. As we're watching, like Kohlberger and the Delphi killing, like all of these things, all of these cases that have been streamed in the last year, you're seeing this over and over again, where you have judges actually making comments during streams. The judge in Oklahoma browsing Facebook as opposed to, or memes or whatever it was, instead of paying attention to the court proceedings. This is a nightmare for a defendant to go up against. I'm soapboxing again. I'm sorry.
It's all right,
Well,
man. It's all
great.
good stuff. They
It's
have the advantage, and they have an endless supply of money. And
Yep.
An endless supply of money. I mean, government's not. When is the government ever worried about spending money? They literally have as much money as they need. And I had some dough. I got lucky. But I mean, they spent way more money than I did. I mean, they spent millions and millions and millions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that they can have the upper hand for sure, and it's up to you to get a lawyer that really wants to fight for you. I don't know too much about your brother's lawyer, but you can tell when not before a trial. My lawyer treated me like you don't even want to know, but it was her process. She called it. But she literally memorized 30,000 pages of discovery. I don't know how many pages your brother had, but I guess 30,000 is a lot. My lawyer memorized all of it. Like she knew her story better than me.
Yeah.
Lawyer, look, I mean, it was amazing. Lawyers, I don't. How was your brother's lawyer? Was she okay or?
The defense attorney, she did an all right job. I think that during the trial, I thought that that it was a better performance than rewatching footage afterwards. And rewatching footage afterwards, I think that there were a lot of opportunities missed, and I think that there were failures of co-counsel and things like that
I never felt like she missed an opportunity. It makes me want to cry right now how well I was represented. She didn't miss anything, man. I mean, that's what you want. You want that real ace lawyer that just knows your case up and down. And it's so sad that you could be innocent and get that and still get convicted because it doesn't work.
Right.
But I can't say enough about how good my lawyer was, and everybody's been saying it. Her name's Diane Menaggi. She's my age. She's 50, I guess. And for her to soak all that information up and on the spot, she had an assistant who was really smart, but they had 3 dedicated prosecutors and the lead detective that over there all the time, and they had access to everything, and she just smoked them. She was just so good. I couldn't imagine being at trial and having an attorney, and Dylan says it happens, that doesn't know anything. It's like they don't know anything about your trial.
I will say that in Zach's case, the prosecutors didn't know the case that well, and that was part of the problem. I mean, they knew it, but they chose to mislead and make misleading statements, and literally, like in the closing argument, the prosecutor defrauded the court repeatedly, and that in itself is just kind of mind-boggling. I had some, and those were the issues that I had with why they weren't objecting to those moments, because
it's that final argument. There's no cross. So they can say whatever they want, and you're like, "Whoa, that's not right,"
Right, because the state goes, and then you get the rebuttal, and then the state gets the final rebuttal.
Final say, that's right.
Yeah, the final say. So, I mean, the whole situation is ridiculous because it was so much hearsay. It was just rumors. There's no evidence to argue. It was statements made by people that had no basis or merit or backed up facts. So you had an argument of people that was he said, she said, that was a custody battle turned into a murder case. So you have a civil case where you're allowed to make he said, she said arguments with a bunch of hearsay that was warped into a criminal case. And it was the worst abusive of the law that I don't know if I've ever seen so much. And I say that, you know, kind of loosely because I haven't watched a lot of trials, but the reality is, you know, Zach's case was precedential in so many different ways because, you know, the judge himself said that he hadn't allowed that much hearsay in 40 years, you know, of being on the bench. He had never allowed that much hearsay into a criminal trial in 40 years as a judge, but he was doing it for his last criminal case. And he even gave his rationale behind it, which doesn't make sense. Why do you think that the law has changed? Because you think that the higher courts aren't going to overturn your decision? Like that's not a reasonable application of the law. And then you have, you know, the prosecutor making stuff up, like I said, defrauding the court. If you have that much misconduct where the prosecutor feels comfortable just lying to the jury, you have a long history of a prosecutor doing that in front of a judge that he's very comfortable lying to and defrauding the court with. And that's a huge red flag.
Did they make any attempt to try to connect any dots, or was that they would just throw everything? They didn't even try. They just kept inundating you with like evidence, but they never like tried.
It was the filibuster tactic where they just filibustered the court long enough to say enough for people to believe that there was just so much, and then
that's what they tried to do with my case.
They do a closing, and they're like, "But this is how we think this connects." With no proof.
Isn't that sad that it works? I've been telling people that that's what they did in my case. They literally just kept bringing in evidence, but they never connected any dots. So none of it meant anything, but it works because jurors are like, there must be something here. I'm just missing it, you know?
Yep.
Why would they put all this effort into this if the guy wasn't guilty? And
exactly.
It works. It's just the technique that they do.
Then the presumption of innocence is warped into a presumption of guilt because the people in the jury panel are now like, well, we've got to connect and solve this crime. But they're not getting all the pieces of the puzzle, and they're not getting actual factual pieces of the puzzle either.
But we've got one more slide here, Matt. Matt, we've got one more slide for you here on this one, and we'll finish with the maths things. I just want to I want to go through this one because this was an important one. Oops, gone too far now. How do you not go look for your wife when she's missing? Always speaking of her in the past tense, carrying on like nothing is wrong on the podcast I listened to. He really fooled us all. Emily Noble needs justice. Matthew Moore should be in jail for his crime. What's the podcast? The Vanish Pod, which we always diss. But the reason I put this one in is just another example of the influence of not just mainstream media, but also podcasts and content creators and stuff like that. So you'll see when I post Zachariah's the tweets about Zach in the same way as Matt, these are all majority of them from content creators like me. So it's not just mainstream media. These are people that are streaming trials. These are people that are influencing people out there. That's what's scary. And we know what you think about the Vanish Pod, Matt. So
as I'm leaving, it's day 2. No evidence found. No evidence of foul play found. I'm being interviewed. These guys, they weren't very good at it. They were rookie cops, but they're like, you killed your wife, you fucking killed her, you fucking scumbag, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, all right, I guess you think can I leave? And they're like, yeah. As I'm leaving, they're right in my ear, you know, trying to bully me. And they're like, you're gonna get the death penalty, blah blah blah, you know. And as I'm leaving with my father, they said, good luck on social media. They couldn't help it. They had to tell me, you know, good luck on social. I didn't know what they meant. Within 2 weeks, I know exactly what they meant. It's a coordinated effort with people like this. All they got to do is make some ghost accounts, get on Facebook, say some things. They said I failed a lie detector test. It's over. If the public thinks you failed a lie detector test, you're done. You're guilty. You know what I mean? So they'll leak that type of crap into they'll just leak it, and it turns into this thing. Now the harassment comes from the public. They don't even, that doesn't even have to come from the police. You know, it's just another avenue to harass you. That the public thinks this person's obviously. They're saying that I never looked for my wife. I looked for my wife until I couldn't get out of bed. I was exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just done. It was like 11, 12 days of just freaking out. They put a GPS on my car. They know that I was searching for it. But there's a person that thinks I was sitting home doing nothing. It's just disinformation. I did speak to her in the past tense, but I was also speaking to her in the present tense for the most part. Yeah. They threw me in the back of a squad car, you know what I mean, and locked me in the back of a squad car, drove me down to the police station, and it was like I was being arrested. It was obvious. They came with a warrant. They were just going through all my stuff, and that'll have an effect on you. And you know what? I've talked to police. I got a guy on our podcast who's an ex-law enforcement, federal law enforcement. They know that. They know that this is going to cause you to misspeak.
He's in the chat. Mighty Meat.
He explained it really well, and I have a clip of that. And he's like, that's what they do. They bring they'll address her in the past tense. They'll keep doing that. You know what I mean? And then you slip up. It's so much pressure. And if you don't know especially if your wife is missing and you need their help. I needed their help. I couldn't be like, fuck you, I'm going to just go look for her myself, until they said you're a murderer, and then I had to. But you need their help, right? Anyone out there, don't talk to police because they're not. Imagine if your kid goes missing. You're going to need their help to look for your kid, but they're not there to help you. I'm telling you, they're there to build a case on you. I don't know what to do. I just get a lawyer, and just to talk to the police through your lawyer. I don't know what they did to your brother as far as that, but I was green. I didn't know. I thought they were there to help me. And they were even telling me that as it's happening to me, I was just like, they would say things. I would be like, they didn't say that. You're just imagining that, you know? They would say it like they were suspecting me of something. It's, you got to get a lawyer, and then don't say anything. Don't talk to police, because they're going to, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just they're looking for discrepancies. It doesn't have anything to do with truth or whether you did it or not. They're just building a case, and they're trying to close it. They're not looking for your loved one. I don't know. What do you do? I don't think I would have done anything different except get a lawyer. You have to look for your loved one. I mean, you're not going to help. You're not going to. I mean, you have to. So it's just a bad spot to be in. And they know.
Absolutely.
Cops know. They know what they're doing. They're pros.
That's the number one thing that, I mean, so we watched Zach's interrogation video last night on MLS, and he dual streamed it with Valhalla. And that was it. That was the number one thing. That was his number one mistake, is that he talked to the cops for like an hour and a half before he realized there was something wrong with their line of questioning. And, you know, his whole point was, so they were investigating what he thought was stalking, which was an allegation that you know, his ex had made to him personally. And he's just like, this is ridiculous. This is not the truth. She's delusional. This is not what was happening. You know, I have records of exactly what I was looking into. This is why I stopped by her house, and you know, it was never that intent. And he said enough for them to fulfill the arrest and hold him for at least 48 hours, but they were going to do that anyway. They were going to do that based on what she told the police. And that was just like a believe all women situation, right? And it was because they didn't go into it with the idea that they were going to verify any information. They were just going into it to try and get him in prison.
They're not looking to solve it. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking
exactly and to connect him somehow to this missing man. And he was like, as soon as he realized that they were trying to connect him to something else, you can see the shift where he said, I'm not comfortable with what's going on here. I think I need a lawyer. And then they pushed a little bit harder, and he said, I need to speak to a lawyer. And then it ended. But they made a reference to that even in his trial, in the closing argument. They said, and he had his chance to clear everything up, to speak his side of the story, which is a direct violation of the Fifth Amendment.
You can't use that as like your obstruction or any. You're literally, that's a right you have that's in the Constitution.
Yep.
They can't use it against you, but
Yep.
they do.
Yep.
He's not cooperating. What they did
That's
with
right.
me is your brother did better than me. I kept talking until they were in my face. You fucking murdered your wife, and I'm like, I kept talking. I just because I needed their help. That's how oblivious I was. I didn't see it coming. You just don't think they're going to do it to you.
Yep.
It's tough. And then what they'll do is they'll say, finally, I was just like, all right, I'm out of here. And then I went and got a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, you were talking to the police? What are you, crazy? Don't ever talk to him again.
Don't ever
like,
talk to the police.
And then they'll go into the media and they'll be like, he's not cooperating. He won't talk to us.
Yep.
It's so unfair. I mean, I'm surprised more people don't see it for what it is.
Yeah, the court and the police have PR people on employ to be able to do social media and media releases to smear citizens. Yes. That's what they do.
Ghost accounts, they call them. They go and they make these strange accounts and they just put these things in. The smear campaign against me was just, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I just was like, my wife's been missing. Don't you want to help me find her? No. They were saying horrible things like I was a bad father, I killed my kids, I abused Emily, just anything they could come up with. They were just saying, and I'm trying to find her. You know, she's alive out there somewhere, and this is what I'm dealing with. It's and they know that who's supposed to be able to deal with something like that? It's really hard. Right. It's really hard. I mean, psychologically, it's horrible. And they know what they're doing. It's tactics.
We'll segue a little bit here. We'll continue with it. I think we're going naturally. We're just talking about it. We're not going to split it up. But we'll take a quick break here with Solomon. We've got these beautiful, beautiful ladies here. Before you say anything, let's.
When did you leave? I thought you were going to stay.
A little distorted.
Good morning, pretty lady. I left when everyone fell asleep last night.
Okay, but you fell asleep first. This suggests that Zach being over and even staying the night was not completely out of the question at this point. In fact, we know that Zach would go over as often as he could to help tutor their 12-year-old daughter. He was trying to stay involved with the kids as much as he was able. That same night, March 21st, Zach asked Sadie if she has a date with Rosalio later. She ended that text exchange with a "Good night, Z-Bear."
You and Leo got date night tonight? What's the plan? Huh. Good night.
Good night, Z-Bear. It seems like an odd goodbye to send someone you're in a toxic place with, because Sadie claims that Zach was stalking and harassing her, and that she was afraid of him through this time period, as testified to on the stand. The same time period where she was inviting him over and continuing to use pet names. Zach also seems to be confused about this too. He told her the next day, March 22nd, in a text, "I don't have any fight left for you. I don't have any arguments. I have questions, some feelings. Good night, Sadie Bear. I love you." In the following clip, you can hear Zach's lawyer describe more text conversations between Zach and Sadie in March, where Sadie makes it clear she wants to make things work.
March 24th, 2020, Ms. Beecham receives a text from Mr. Anderson that says, "You got other dudes, and I am supposed to find someone who wants to spend time with me." The state says that the evidence will show that she's not trying to spark up the relationship again. But there's instances, and you'll hear the testimony, that Ms. Beecham continuously refers to Mr. Anderson as Dave. His nicknames on March 28th, 2020, she texts Mr. Anderson and says, "Good night, A-Bear." She continuously, from January 2019 all the way up to May 17th, 2020, says things like this.
There you go, Saul.
So they speak for themselves, really. Wrongful podcast. I can't say enough about the time, the effort, the work that these ladies put into this. Alicia, the script writer, Josie, the actual voice that you hear for the most part, and then you've got Kayla and Ashley, all of them, promoting social media, doing the website, making sure that everything is uploaded, and working together to coordinate this massive, massive effort. They did. It's actually technically 6 episodes. It was part 5 was 2 parts of this. They wrote it all out, and they gave context to the trial. They talked about the trial, and they talked about why it was a wrongful conviction. And it's important for everybody to really listen to this, because it talks about the misconduct, the games played by the prosecutor, exactly how testimony was done so wrong, with leading questions and everything else, all the dirty tricks that they were playing in this, in Zach's case, and they really, they put their whole lives on hold. They've got kids, they've got families, they've got jobs, they've got obligations that they were taking care of while, making this podcast. It was a huge personal sacrifice for them, and we are exceedingly grateful. So thank you very much to all of you out there. There's a reason why it's next to my name, underneath my dumb face here in this window. Go to wrongfulpod.com, listen to the whole thing. For those of you that are new to the case, that want to hear why it was a wrongful conviction, they do a very good job piecing it together in a very approachable way, and something that's easy to listen to while you're driving to work or doing chores around the house or whatever it is. Digging deep, because it's upsetting to listen to it over and over, like, how bad it was over and over again. There's a reason why I'm still here doing this and will continue to do this. At this time, we're at about 10 months of me trying to fight and crusade for Zach.
Keep it up, man.
Yeah, it's right. But you should be listening to this podcast, man. I know I promote it every week, but you should be listening to it, especially anyone that's new. I love the podcast. And I know that I laugh and joke about it, about Josie. Like, if I don't promote it, then she'll skin me alive every day. But it's a pleasure to promote it. It's fantastic. And that voice, I mean, when I found out it was Josie, I thought it was Kayla, if I'm being honest. I thought soothing voice. I heard it was Josie. It's like, you're lying. There's no way that is Josie's voice, because I thought it would be completely different. But I love listening to it. So well done, ladies. Fantastic work. Right. I remove that.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
I'm your average Joe. You got 30 seconds of my attention when I flip it through. You know what I'm saying? I come across your brother's case, and I'm just, you're only going to have so much time to get my attention. There's probably a lot of people, because it's so complex. You know what I mean? It's too much, right? What gets me to pay attention is, if something is said, I want it explained to me. And if you can't explain it, then I'm on to the next thing. What's the biggest piece of evidence? Do they have any direct evidence at all? Direct evidence?
No, it was all indirect. So no direct evidence at all was presented.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, because this is something that, if I knew, yes, there is direct evidence. I was told that there was blood or DNA in his car.
It's still circumstantial. Direct evidence would be like video footage, eyewitness testimony, things like that. So
because that could be like transfer DNA. That could be like, because there was a custody thing. They were passing. There's people. So that's easy to explain that way. So when you get people say, well, there's blood in his car, and it smelled like bleach, and he was cleaning things, it's like, that's not evidence of that's not direct evidence. But
there was actually no blood ever verified in his car whatsoever. So that was misinformation in the media. I think we're about to get into that.
We're going to cover all this.
Okay. That's the type of thing that where I'm coming from. When I hear that, well, there's blood in the car. Well, then, unless someone's around to explain it, that might get me turned off and go on to the next thing. Well, there's blood in the car. They got DNA. They got direct evidence against them. But you need to tell people that it's not, that's not so. To keep them interested. Yeah, cool.
Okay. Let's see if I overlap this one.
Trial by media. Here we go.
Yes. So, like, as I said, let me just adjust this, because I'll adjust this here, because I keep putting the chats over Solomon, and I don't want to do that. So what I'll do is I'll lessen it. Oh, I'll put us at the top somewhere. Oh no, I'll just let us down here.
Fucking law and crime. They're hacks. Law and crime.
Yeah.
They're fucking.
I mean, they're sensationalist headliners. You know, they're doing it for clicks. You know what I mean? That's that they're playing a game with people's lives.
Absolutely.
That's the problem. And this is something I actually I bitched out multiple producers from Law and Crime because I did 2 interviews with them about this, and I told them exactly what I thought about this headline, and the way they polluted the jury pool and the public by bringing such a prejudicial headline onto his case. They've already tainted people's opinions. There's absolutely no evidence of him being obsessed or committing the murder. It is a trial about a homicide, but there was no evidence that connected him to the homicide and no evidence about an obsessed man. They tried to spin a narrative about how one time that he bought her flowers on her dad's birthday, that when her dad was really sick, that was a sign of obsession. But that's not the case at all. What they did was try and reframe a very innocent and actually very kind gesture that you would do for someone that is hurting a friend or a lover that is going through a hard time as something that was malicious in intent. And everything that they spun about the trial was just false, and they didn't verify it. It was hearsay. It was all rumors. So classifying it as this title is so incredibly prejudicial.
Yeah. And I want people to remember, right, that
and to let people know that I was a victim of the same thing, and it's real. What he's talking about right now, he's not being paranoid. He's not exaggerating. No. It's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they did to me. It literally is sensationalism. They're not. So, you're not going to get from. Go ahead.
No, it's fine, Mark. So it's a bit of late.
You're not going to get the truth from any of these shows, these true crime shows. You're not. Court TV was law and crime, and Court TV, they were horrible to me. I was guilty. Anything that made me look guilty, they would talk about. Anything that didn't, they wouldn't talk about it. It's
anything that
where
they
you
could
should go to get.
Yeah, anything that could spin the story just enough where it could get as close to a Nancy Drew novel, because they wanted that like drama, that back and forth, like the he said she said type of sensationalized crap in especially in what they want to present as a spousal dispute or a lover's quarrel. It's like it's formulaic and disgusting.
Yeah. So there's 2 comments here. I love it. Angels were a potty
I'll give you
mouth.
an example. It's like my
Go on.
This is my favorite example because I'm on the other side of this thing. Emily made a text to me one day. We were sweet. I mean, we didn't even fight. She's like, "Hey, I'm afraid to come home today," because I had been drinking during the day, and she was just there wasn't a problem. I wasn't, She just said, "Hey, I'm afraid to come home today." You know what I mean? And then the Court TV, it was Court TV. They switched to the commentator, and she looked in the camera. I swear to God, she goes, "Emily Noble, afraid to come home. That's all you need to know." During trial. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. And it was
I remember that hitting the headline
about something. So I just like telling that story because it's like.
Alicia's put this post out. I always question anyone who's making money off the story. So it's not just law and crime. And the whole point of trying to get to this stream is it's not just law and crime, obviously. Every tweet you're about to see are either from a content creator like myself, obviously a lot bigger than my channel, and how they influence other people and how people comment to it and buy into it. So just keep that in mind. These aren't just the majority of them, I think 80% of them are content creators, and then 20% are like commenters. So just
my
so you can
arch
see,
nemesis was the Vanished podcast. They are
Yeah.
hacks. They are not telling that they're just trying to get you to sell advertisement. They're trying to get you to sensationalize everything and get you to click on them. They're hacks. Amanda Coleman is the producer of it. I don't think they're that big of a deal, but you're not going to get the right story from them. They're lying to you. They purposely lied to their listeners.
Yeah. Right.
I do want to point out that Wrongful wasn't getting paid to actually produce their podcast. So on the topic of content creation for the sake of profit, they didn't at all. Like, not monetized. It wasn't a thing. So they actually, it's because they were so affronted by Zach's case. They felt the desire to do something that meant something for this fight. And that's again a reason why they're in my banner right here, a reason why we talk about them so much. Law Calling Express, I don't give you enough credit out there. He does a really good job bringing up critical, the minutia of the crime scene investigation and the lackluster investigation that really went down, and calling into question the police logic and exactly where there were items that were missed and why certain questions weren't asked or answered. And he does a really good job of digging real deep into this stuff. So Joe, I gotta toss you a bone too, brother. I know you're in the chat. Thank you for your hard work too. But there's so many people that have just that couldn't set this case down when they actually saw it and saw what they did. And that's why we're all here doing this now.
Yeah. Well said. And yeah, I didn't obviously Wrongful Pods. They're amazing, and they just said here that Alicia just said we were actually ended up in the negative producing it. So all credit to you guys for that. People don't understand the cost that goes into these things as well. So I get it. So I appreciate you ladies for what you've done. Okay, so these are some of the comments. So I mean, the first couple are like whatever, stupid fool, why his career path just ended. That he thought he'd corrupted his young daughter sufficiently that she'd never testify against him, but she showed how wrong he was and how strong she was. What courage that must have taken on her part.
I think fundamentally this comment shows ignorance. The emotional state of a child that's going through a parental breakup is very fragile, and often during these confused areas or times of a child's life, they'll try and play each parent to a strength. And in this case, it's pretty clear that that's what was going on. There's a certain level of manipulation and dishonesty and things like that are coming out of my niece. And you're talking about courage, but I look at her as a victim of circumstance. This isn't courage. This is a little girl that was trying to seek approval of her mother when she was with her mother, and a little girl that was seeking approval of her father when she was with her father. It was a little girl that wanted to be loved and cared for, and a little girl that wanted to feel important in this whole proceeding. So courage, yes, but also tragedy. So understand that there's a reason why she even went out on the Law and Crime show, the Behind the Crime, and did that interview. She wanted to express that she loves her father. It's not that she stopped loving him or was terrified of him. She never was. It was never the case. She was a little girl that was confused, that wanted to feel important in her parents' life, and it was a hard time for her. And the lack of understanding, the lack of empathy, the lack of compassion for a child being placed in a situation with adults, these detectives that were willing to try and spin and use this massive cry of attention from a tiny child is sickening. You should all want better of our justice system and how they handle children in these circumstances. This is gross, a gross abuse of power, a gross abuse of a child. Parental alienation, look into that. Suggestive memory, look into that too. We have an abused child because of the system,
Right.
by law enforcement and by a mother that decided that she was going to convince her daughter that her father was evil.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking shit to go through that.
How,
I mean,
how do they sleep at night? You know, how do they live with themselves? It's amazing. They're sociopaths.
No, right. So there's that one. That's always hits you hard. You know what I mean? What position to be in as a child. So there's a crux here, Sol. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if you want to pick some stuff up here, but they talk about the DNA, stalking, and all this. It's just like there's so much of this. People can read it. Hopefully, I don't need to read it out, but the overall overarch stuff here is about blood DNA in the van, stalking the victim, burnt items, Walmart purchases. That always makes me laugh when we talk about Walmart purchases. Different size flip flops. That's the first I've ever heard that one. As in, for people to say he's guilty because of it. So, yeah.
Well, let's be realistic. The state made a case that he was this incredibly highly planned individual, that he was so organized and highly planned that he committed the near perfect murder. That was the state's narrative. But he has different size flip-flops, but then he had to go buy supplies the next day.
Yeah.
How is that the most highly planned, most well executed murderer in the history of the United States? It doesn't make sense. Those two cannot live logically together, right? That doesn't make sense. He doesn't have a mode of behavior that would indicate that he would be that type of person that would execute so perfectly and so methodically that nothing would be left at the crime scene.
Right.
Nothing at all. None of his DNA left at the crime scene whatsoever. And if you saw the pictures of his house, he's disorganized. He is a disorganized man, just in general. He's chaos, but he's also more creative than I am, and that's part of who he is, and that's okay. He's my brother. And with that, we have farmland sensibility, where when we have crap that we want to get rid of and we have a fire burning, we'll burn it in the fire, because that's what country boys do.
Right.
It's a thing. And for those of you that live in big cities, I know that you don't completely understand it, but I encourage you to look up how trash disposal in remote rural areas works. They have a barrel, and they light a fire in it, and they burn their garbage. And that's what we grew up doing, burning our garbage as kids. That's not abnormal. So this is insanity. That they claim that burned items in a fire pit mean that he was covering up evidence. Well, there was nothing in the fire pit that ever connected those items to the murder. Nothing at all. Burning things doesn't mean you committed murder. Missing carpet out of the back of a van when something spills like a gasoline or a petroleum product in the back of the van, you're not going to get that smell out of the carpeting. So it would be reasonable to cut it out and remove it. They made false claims in the media. Blood in the van, that is one of them. There was never any test that tested for blood in the van that tested positive. They did presumptive testing with both phenolphthalein and luminol. Those are two different presumptive tests. One of them that glows when a black light is shown or shine on the area that's treated with luminol. When all the lights are out, so it highlights, it illuminates when a black light shines on it. That we have the picture of it on our website, freezachariahanderson.org. It is dark. It is completely dark. There's nothing that interacted with the luminol substance. And they even talk about in the trial that bleach sometimes reacts with luminol because of the nature of bleach. Also did not react. So the claim that there was bleach in the van, it's not definitive that there was anything, bleach or blood, that was ever in the van at all. And there are more substances than just bleach that can leave a stain on carpeting. If you look at the pictures of the van up close, it is filthy, completely filthy. It is not cleaned. There's no evidence of the van being scrubbed. no evidence of the van being cleaned like a cover-up. None of that occurred. The state alleged otherwise. They said that it was a clear cleaning and that's why the carpet was missing. But there was no blood from a man who allegedly was brutally bludgeoned to death in his apartment of any blood in any of the hardware, in the door latch, anywhere else in the back of the van. Nowhere. They claimed that there was one speck that got away that they couldn't test as blood. That means that they could not confirm that it was blood. And it is possible that it was transfer DNA. It's very
Right.
possible. And in
Transfer
fact,
DNA.
probable that it was transfer DNA, considering that Mr. Gutierrez was at Sadie's apartment a couple of weeks before. Sadie was there not that long, a couple of days before. And Sadie had access to the children who were also in the back of the van. Transferred DNA, epithelial skin cells can be transferred that easily from one person to another as our instrumentation for doing DNA tests become more advanced, more sensitive. They're picking up more and more minute specimens of DNA in these tests. And that means that false positives are a relevant thing to consider. And according to Tiffany Roy, who's a 16-year veteran of doing crime lab and DNA analysis, says that DNA is not definitive to decide someone's guilt. It must be corroborated by other evidence because the DNA alone does not indicate that a person had committed a crime because of the lack of traceability about where DNA came from.
Yeah. So I just put this up here. These are the things I added. So this is the house, obviously.
That's the crime scene. Yeah, that was Mr. Gutierrez's apartment.
I can see the amount of blood around, and obviously the van, how untidy it was,
Totally
so
filthy.
people could leave.
Yeah.
And these are obviously filthy again. And this is what you were discussing about. I think this is what they said was a fleck. Is this the one on the left hand side?
No, this is
Oops.
Spec A1 was on the rear D pillar, I believe. So it's the rear
got the wrong
passenger
one.
side D
Sorry.
pillar. It's
My
fine.
apologies.
But there's little stickers and post-its of things that they were concerned about or interested in testing. All of them, the multiple splashes and smears of this red substance. There it is, right there, at the bottom right, A1. I want you to really pay attention. If you go to the website and look through this, there are multiple areas of the van that have this reddish substance, this reddish brown substance, as they described it, all over the place. All of them tested negative for blood. It would be more reasonable to conclude that it's the same substance that was everywhere else in the van than to assume that it was Gutierrez's blood, considering that there was no other evidence whatsoever of Gutierrez anywhere else on any of Zach's property or even in the septic tank or on any of his clothes or, because if you commit a murder where you brutally beat somebody to death, you're going to get some blood spatter. They tested the traps in the sink, in the tub. They tested all these places. Nothing, absolutely nothing. There was no evidence of it. None, no evidence. This is not a definitive test. And they tested it without following the Bar Association guidelines. If there's a specimen that is going to be destroyed in the testing process, they are obligated to defer to the defense about the viability of that item. They never bothered to do this. It was never a thing. So they didn't even go through the proper procedures because the defense has the right to demand that the crime lab photographs and videotapes the collection and processing of the specimen from what they're testing it. If it's going to be destroyed and cannot be retested, because the defense has the right to retest any specimen that the state has tested. So this is a violation of his right to be able to have a fair trial because it was prejudicial and not retestable. So this in itself, this all goes back to evidence that we don't know its veracity. The veracity is the truth of the evidence. We don't know if it's a false positive. We don't know the likelihood that it actually tested positive to Gutierrez that was not presented in the trial. They just had the prosecutor testifying about the spec, ruling things out, misleading the jury, and confusing the witness from the crime lab as well. So you have the prosecutor actually giving the deposition, not the witness. And this is another problem with leading questions and the judge allowing leading questions and the defense getting tired of objecting to leading questions because they had done it so many times where it was no longer the witnesses giving the testimony. It was just the prosecutor. So it was a manipulation of the jury. This is a situation of gross injustice, of improper execution of law, and people that just didn't do their job well. A mix of all of the above. So understand that it's not blood. They have no idea what it is. They can rule out semen because of the DNA profile. Otherwise, they have no idea what type of DNA that is. Let's definitively say that. Scientifically, you can say that it was not semen, but it could have been other stuff. And that's it.
And it would be logical because of them sharing custody, that there would be some sort of transfer DNA happening somewhere. I mean, it's just logical, right? And your lawyer just wasn't able to get that across for some reason.
They talked about it. They actually talked about Gutierrez. His phone actually tracked directions to Zach's house, and allegedly he went up to my brother's house to give him a taste of his own medicine, which was going through his property and going through his stuff to then creep him out too, which I don't think he ever realized that Rosalio did, not until the trial. So we have no idea, but allegedly Rosalio went up to my brother's house and went through his belongings. So it could have been transferred at that juncture.
Right.
I don't know for sure. I wasn't there to see what happened between everybody, but I've seen enough Discovery to raise questions, and I can't talk about all those things, but there's some issues that I have with what the state presented. It was tremendously misleading about what transpired.
Yeah. The only way the law works is if those rules are followed. The law, there's rules. You got to follow them. If you start skating the rules, then the law doesn't work. It's not going to work.
That's right.
I think this is important because obviously the reason I wanted to put this in was the amount of blood that we see on the floor, and the fact that for anyone new, like SEN advocate, this is the reason I do this. Is this is the one case I have not watched or know anything about. I'm interested because I know how passionate Dylan is. I'm going to spend some time watching the trial. So SEN's just joined my channel a few weeks ago. I speak about Zach's trial every single day. We promote the wrong report every single day. I end every stream with a free Zachariah just to promote it. I forget one person to look at the trial and look at the evidence. It's well worth it. So we'll continue battling because of that. But it's to showcase people that we all know, but people at SEN don't know. The amount of blood that was in the crime scene, and then you just look at the state of his van, and all they found was that one, not even blood. Do you know what I mean? That's the only thing they found that could resemble blood. Look at the state of the van. You'd have to clean that so thoroughly. And I remember Coffin Duffer, FBI, ex-FBI, on Twitter said about Brian Kohlberger, but this is still relevant to Zach, that it doesn't matter how much you clean a van, a car, or whatever, you'll never, ever get rid of all the blood or DNA and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, fuck me sideways. Is that it? Is that all they got? That they don't even know if it's blood? So you're telling me that amount of blood there's not more left in this this dirty van? It's just a joke.
Now, mind you, a further caveat to this case is that they pushed for an early determination of death for a death certificate to receive death benefits after they convicted my brother, which is interesting because they never proved that he was dead, ever. They didn't even have a witness that they brought to the stand. They have no body, but they also never produced a witness that actually took the stand and talked about the nature of the injury, the volume of approximated blood loss, and what they believed the injury that he sustained was that would have caused his demise. No one ever testified to that. Not a single person. The only person that talked about it was the prosecutor. And that is not factual. They never produced a witness that actually talked about it. So they presented this case, and the reason why they said that he met his demise is because people that he talked to regularly and sometimes daily stopped hearing from him. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's why. That's why they believe he was murdered. No other evidence. So I mean, there are people that I talked to regularly when I was in high school that I stopped talking to when I graduated high school, when I moved on. You know what? At this point, I'm dead to them. I'm clearly sitting here talking to you, but I'm dead to them. This is insanity. This is insanity.
Yeah. Let me go back to the original. No, I agree. And that's something I want to cover, because that's one of the big things that comes out all the time. If you say Zach's guilty, well, he's guilty because of the blood found, there's amounts of blood, there's this and that. Anyway, right, hang on.
They're supposed to keep that crap out of trial.
They are.
Not even supposed to be part of trial. So
yeah, technically that spec should not have been admissible because it was not allowed to be retested, and there was no produced verifiable footage of any testing or collection.
Do you feel that's grounds for a mistrial then?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many other issues with it that are grounds for mistrial, but so I mean, the whole thing is to get it in front of the right justice, and the issue is that the appellate system, you're supposed to take it to the trial court. The trial court is supposed to have an opportunity to correct the wrong that they committed in the trial. So every step of the way, everyone gets an opportunity to correct their mistake. And then you escalate, and then give them an opportunity, and then you escalate, give the next tier, the Supreme Court, an opportunity. And so you're supposed to do that over and over and over again, where you appeal to the next layer of the judicial system until the state is exhausted, and then you go to the federal system. You can go straight to the federal system, but because of state sovereignty, when the federal system decides to make a determination that directly contradicts the state's determination, the state can just choose to ignore the federal guideline, and we see that in. Are you familiar with Making a Murder? The kid Brandon. The kid who's had like IQ of 70 that admitted to doing something that he never did because he was simple and just telling the cops what they wanted to hear because he wanted to go watch wrestling. That kid, the federal government already determined that he was absolutely not guilty. Like, exonerate this kid, get him out of prison. The state of Wisconsin refuses to release him.
Wow.
So it's not even that we have the appellate system. Right? We have the appellate system. And if everybody does what they're supposed to do, the person who's not guilty of the crime gets released when they're innocent or proven innocent, or that the system violated their rights in prosecuting them in the interest of justice. And by perpetuating injustice in the pursuit of justice, you have undermined the spirit of justice itself. So if you cannot uphold the integrity of the system, you undermine the entire system. And if the state is deciding to then disregard somebody's right to innocence and right to a fair trial, what rights do we all have? And this is an important question for all of us. Why are we allowing these individuals who are voted into office to continue to perpetuate this?
Yeah. It's never going to stop. Doesn't seem like it. Hi, Migraine. So we go on to the next one. There's nothing much to address. I think we've addressed some of this stuff here about, again, him being guilty, blah, blah, blah. I thought this was an interesting one. They needed to add intimidating witness for what he did to his daughter. I was like, but he didn't do anything except for the, whatever. Sorry, you have explained before, but
I mean, we can talk about that if you want to. The shushing moment, which is talked about, that in between the state's questions to my niece, she was trying to mouth questions, comments to my brother, to her dad. She hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. It was the first time she had seen him in person, and she couldn't control herself. She wanted to say hello to her dad. She wanted to talk to her dad. And so he did a dad thing. And when he was shaking his head, she wasn't listening. And then he asked her to stop. This is it. Just say what you're going to say, but stop trying to talk to me. And that was misconstrued by media. Trial by media, they ran with the narrative that he was silencing her and suppressing her testimony. That was never the case. That's absolute misinformation.
And I want to bring that up because I think that's important. I know we covered it before, but thanks for doing it again because that's just incorrect information. So I wanted that in. Now, this, if I'm being completely honest with you, I'd never seen this before. Or I don't remember seeing this before.
This is just misinformation. It's not on Sadie's vehicle at all. This is on Celia's, the missing man's mother's vehicle.
Is it? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I put that in because that's come from Kathy. I left her in because I thought, well, she's out there anyway, so I just put her in there. She's from Court TV. Not Court TV, Law and Crime, sorry. Unless I'm not buying it. I've seen the scenario all the time. Truly believe she has this man killed because he was seeing multiple women. So she's saying Sadie's done it. Only know for a few weeks. I mean, Kathy says it's pretty drastic for only knowing him a few weeks in the sense of Rosario killing Rosario, but like drastic is Zach didn't even know Rosario. Do you know what I mean? So if that's dramatic, then I'd push back and say, well, I think it's dramatic that Zach would consider alleviating Rosario. So yeah, I just want to show that. So
just more information that was false, released by individuals that are connected to the media. That is false. It's just bad information, and they didn't even bother fact checking it. They took the picture and then they posted it without even bothering to verify that they took a picture of the correct person's vehicle. They could have done a license plate search. Get out of here. How lazy is that? How irresponsible is it of professionals in media? Professionals, I use that term loosely. Professionals in media. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
She's paid, so I don't mind her being exposed because she's a paid member of Law and Crime that put that out there. So the other people I've hidden because I hate them. I don't want to give them promotion anyway. So I'm not worried. I don't store with high corpses. I don't mean to be flippant, but there will be nothing weird on my computer, no gaps in my cell phone usage. I definitely know there was DNA in my car.
I want to address that comment.
Yes.
No
please.
gaps in your cell phone usage. You don't sleep? What are you talking about? Because when you sleep and you put your phone on the charger and you're not activating it, that's a gap in your cell phone usage. The ignorance of this statement. The whole point that what my brother was doing in the assumed time of death, and I say assumed because it was never verified,
Right,
was taking a nap. He was asleep. He had spent the weekend playing with his 3 children, taking them out to the farm, roughhousing with them, and having fun with his kids. And he took a nap before he was supposed to spend time with his girlfriend and then overslept. That is the reality of it. Have you ever been exhausted and laid down and then slept a little too long? Has that ever happened to you? You would have a gap in your cell phone usage.
Yeah.
that's what they.
Yeah.
That's the cell phone. It was used in my case. They needed to find this. They just needed this period where I wasn't using my cell phone, and it was ridiculous. It didn't work. I don't know how. You might want to explain to people like how did they use it? Was it even like logical that it would be he took a nap and,
yeah, so they even set it up so they had the witnesses, the neighbors of the missing man, talk about what time they heard a noise. It sounded like banging on a wall, according to his neighbor upstairs. That sounded like what they thought was children playing, and that was between 10 and 11 p.m. So the state then asserted that around 10 p.m. the murder was committed. That's what they say. They say, well, is because it's the only time that works for them to try and fit the timeline for their
he's not
narrative.
on his phone.
Because he's not on his phone. And the missing man lives over an hour away from him. So they need to be able to give enough time to the next activation of his phone, which is at 11:19 p.m. So they claimed that in roughly 10 minutes that he murdered a man, wrapped him up, placed his body in the back of the van, left no trace of any evidence, locked up, cleaned up, wrapped everything up, moved furniture, and made the crime scene look as neat as he could before he dipped out and raced back to his home with a body in the back of his vehicle to then
So he can
use
use
his
his
cell
phone.
phone to then cancel his time with his girlfriend after an hour or two of hanging out and talking to her about how, oh, I'm sorry, I overslept. That's a bummer. We could still hang out now. You're tired now, blah, blah, blah. And they talked for like an hour. And then there's a gap later in the middle of the night. And they say that he then went out and did something with it. But then they also give a conflicting story where they claim that he had the missing man in the back of the van when he went to Walmart the next day, where he was casually shopping in flip-flops and a hoodie, just walking around buying Q-tips and sardines and an onion, and then some latex gloves during COVID and some Lysol wipes or Clorox wipes during COVID. And this is insane that they took something so completely out of left field and then tried to. Is it an apple? Jen's correcting me. I thought it was an onion. It's fine if I'm wrong, but either way, it's such a mundane thing to do, to then try and tie that to the disappearance of a man. They claimed and said that he parked as far away as possible. That's what the prosecutor said, that he parked as far away as possible. He parked right next to another vehicle.
With a dead body.
Immediately next to another vehicle, allegedly with a dead body in the back of the van. That's what the state claimed. This is the insanity that they tried to sell the public. Wrap your head around it. It doesn't make sense. And the fact that they gave two conflicting stories about how this happened should give you reasonable doubt as a juror, as anyone paying attention.
There was the jailhouse informant said had something to do with. They said he said one thing and then he said he stabbed him or something, and then
yeah. So the jailhouse informant said that in the confession that he stabbed him, and the state had already alleged the situation with the baseball bat. So then in the closing argument, it turned into a bludgeoning by a baseball bat from a blunt instrument to then he turned into the Swiss Army man, where he was pulling out multiple weapons to finish him off.
Just know this. In jail, there's a kiosk. It's this TV that you can kind of do some things on, order stuff. And on the kiosk where I was at, they had a button that said informant program. They align things in jail when you have charges like we had. They know who's a snitch and who's good at it, because you got to be kind of good at it. It's like an industry to get. They're in there and they position where you are so that you get around those people that will go to their attorney and be like, hey, this dude said this and this. It's literally like a thing. Like, it's not like they're not trying to get you to confess. They're trying to get those people around you, and they'll just keep asking you questions and trying to get you to say something. And they're just trying to get their sentence reduced. It's not even, they shouldn't be allowed to use them. Like you said, there's states now that are not allowing them to use them, right? Use them. The jailhouse informant, it's literally like, when I was in there for the first month, that's all I was dealing with was people trying to get me to talk about my case. They would get people older, more experienced criminals, and they would get them around me, and they were always trying to ask me about my case because they were trying to get info. It's literally, and all they're doing is trying to get their sentence reduced. And who's to say that the prosecution doesn't just feed them information? They should not be used. They're criminals. I can't even believe people would even believe someone, especially if they give conflicting details. That doesn't make any sense. No, that the jailhouse informant is a tactic that's used by prosecutors. It's not about truth.
Yep.
It's not about someone trying to do the right
No.
thing. Trust me, they're not trying to do the right thing.
Well, Marquand had 10 years minimum for federal charges for the amount of drugs and paraphernalia that they busted him with. And mind you, Marquand was a murderer, like allegedly a murderer. Like this guy was only he only got out of a murder charge because he claimed that he stepped to the side and took a pee while some other guys committed a murder. Like that's the only way that he got out of it, was he claimed that he was just taking a leak and this other stuff happened. And he got out of 10 years. Like
Wow.
this dude is dangerous. And
Yeah.
so he was let out literally within weeks of Zach's trial after they got the conviction.
That's crazy, man. That's
Like kilos of I think it was heroin and a ton of weed, like 500 pounds or something like that. It was so much. And they busted Zach and they tried to flame him over a little bit of pot.
Yeah.
That was it.
Fucking hell. Right. I mean, we could go through different scenarios. Somebody's just asked about the cards, the freezer and stuff. We're just picking out some of the tweets here. I am just because we could be here all day speaking, but I thought this was an impactful one. So they got content creators saying these two statements, which I think is very, very inappropriate.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that any statement about convicting a man based on his look or his hairstyle is just ignorant, because that has nothing to do with weighing a man's credibility. And I understand that a jury is going to sit down and judge a book by a cover to a certain extent, right? If you have
Yeah.
someone that comes in with face tattoos and teardrop tattoos and stuff like that, they're going to have a little bit of wariness about whether or not this person is a scumbag, right? That's a thing. Like cleaning yourself up and making yourself presentable. I don't think that having a man bun is something that is inherently connected to being a career criminal. It's ridiculous. And furthermore, they denied him health care and haircuts and dental care while he was in jail. They did it on purpose. Yeah, and leading up to the trial and during the trial, they woke him up. They banged on his cell door. They deprived him of sleep. They messed with him to try and make him look exhausted and make him look worse, so he looked haggard while he was in the courtroom. It was a game that they were playing and done intentionally. It was
Absolutely.
a gross game to try and manipulate a jury into believing that he was a guilty man. So let's take a step back on the man bun commentary. It's ridiculous and it's ignorant. So let's just move away from that altogether.
Yeah.
So as far as files and trackers, well, he never employed a tracker, so that is bad information. We already addressed the DNA. We addressed the burnt items. We addressed the ripped out carpet. The chainsaw was never connected to the case whatsoever. If you saw the pictures of his property, you saw multiple trees that he was in the process of felling because they would drop large dead branches on the roof and on the ground of the roof of his garage and on the ground. And he was worried that while his children were playing outside, that they would drop a large dead branch and hurt one of them. So he started bringing down very large old silver maples because he didn't trust them and he wanted them to come down. So you can see a bunch of trees that were partially cut down, partially felled in his front yard. He had chainsaws and he used them. Not only that, but our family has a Christmas tree farm. We use and operate chainsaws. We know how to fell trees. It's part of a thing. It's part of what our family does. That's not an indicator of guilt. The window peeping. Now, if you watched the interview last night, he didn't say that he was peeping in the window. And I understand legally that they're not going to differentiate, but he said that he could see through the window when he went there to get something out of the garage. And through the open window with no blinds or privacy, he saw the dude. That's what he said in the interview. That is different than what you're presenting as a peeping Tom, someone that's walking up and sneaking to try and gather information in the window. That is not what he alleged happened. And if we are providing an assumption of innocence, like our justice system is supposed to be constructed around, then we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's the point of innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Solomon, I'm not trying to get you with this at all. Because I think I know the answer to it. Who made the claim that they smelled bleach?
One of the police officers that responded to the
end of story. End of story.
Yeah.
A cop
no
says
one else.
He smelled bleach.
Yeah, in his report, he says something like I was told that there was a smell of bleach, and then I looked in the van and I smelt it too. So you have also a suggestion.
Unbelievable. That's how can't people recognize that? A cop said he smelled bleach. So people think that, unbelievable. That's fucking horrible. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Yeah.
Man.
And it was wipes he had anyway, not even proper bleach.
And mind you, they claim that he was using all this bleach and that this was necessary. This was an embarrassing moment for the state. They had collected into evidence a full gallon of bleach out of the shop, out of the barn or the garage. So there was a full gallon of bleach, and they were claiming that he was buying these wipes for cleanup.
Right.
But he already had a full gallon sitting when you walked into the shop. It was right on the floor. I remember where it was. You walked in, you looked to the right about 2 feet over, maybe 3 feet over, and it was right on the ground. It was right there when you walked in. It was ridiculous. It was completely false.
It's just funny how they'll make you out to be the smartest guy in the world when they need you smart, but then when you know what I mean, when you're like walking around Walmart, then you turn into like an idiot. Like you can't have it both ways, right? But they
exactly.
They try to make it out to like you know what you ever see
like an idiot savant. That's what they want you to be, like, right?
Like
he's a genius, but he's also a moron.
What was the movie with Kevin Spacey where he limped around? Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects, yeah.
They said I was Kevin Spacey's character. What I was a genius person, but I can't spell couch, and I have a really bad memory, and I'm walking around doing all this stuff. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, they want you to be like. It made me out to be like a genius, like a genius. You'd have to be a genius. It's just.
Yeah. Also, they haven't seen you go out, try to log on to StreamYard. Matt. That's an absolute nightmare to get you on here. But another one here. Best friends. There's a Christian GoFundMe for Zachariah Anderson. I just can't even. Who's donating to this? Because I've got some oceanfront property. Never mind. And most of you all really should be donating. Pray. There's an option for that. I'll just say that the person posted this is a fucking bitch. I hate it anyway, but I had to put it in. I do not want to put her name in there, not because I don't want to expose her, because I would, but I just don't like these people. I'm not going to give them free advertisement. But this person is an absolute hypocrite, and I hate this person, but I have to put it in because the amount of work that people have put in to raising $50,000 is amazing. It's a credit to the community, credit to everyone that's here in chat, credit to you, Sol, Jen, everybody involved. So to dismiss it is, I think, absolute. I got no words for it. I think it's absolutely fantastic what's happened and seeing the community for Zach come together and doing it. So for it to be diminished and said, "Oh, like this woman," I just hate it. But credit to you all, and do not let this type of people belittle what has been done, because what's been done is fantastic. And Josie says, "Where is it? Best friend, we hired Natalie motherfucking Wisco with donations," and that's the right thing. I love that. Thank you, Josie, for that. So yeah, sorry, Sol. I just want that really infuriated me. This did that post.
I mean, I think somebody said in the chat, like, jokes on them. We hit the 50,000 mark. Now the truth is that 50,000 is a start. Yeah, Matt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's so expensive for legal defense, and the appeal is at least as expensive. It's insanely expensive to hire everyone and to get all of the right people, the right people in play. That's really important. Now, Natalie is a gem, and we count ourselves so incredibly blessed to have her representing Zach and in his appeal. We're looking forward to, and we enjoy working with her already. She's responsive, she's caring, she's thoughtful, she's thorough, and we're going through this and trying to help her, pull the pieces apart and put them back together to understand exactly what occurred in this case, so she can argue the appeal and argue the negligence and the impropriety that occurred in the case. So there's a lot to unpack with this, but the first 50 gets us Natalie, gets us the start on the investigation, and we're going to keep going. Like I've said a couple of times, like 50 is not the end, it's the start. So thank you everyone that's donated so far. We're not done, and now comes experts. It comes PIs. I'd said on a previous stream, for those of you that don't know how much this costs, the first quote for a jury investigation that we got was $34,000. The first quote for a private investigator to deep dive this like a cold case, $17,000. So you want to see how fast $50,000 vanishes before your eyes? And that's just two investigators. That's not even other professionals, right? So this really does add up. It stacks up very quickly. And that's not counting extra legal fees and everything else that needs to be paid for. We've got a long way to go. So don't be shy. Continue to share the case. Thank you, Dylan, for having us here and talking about it. But again, jokes on that person. There's a reason why all of these people fight so passionately for Zach and for justice. One, they believe in justice. Two, they saw with their own eyes that Zach got a raw deal, and they understand how corrupt the system is, and they're willing to help fight for something different.
Yeah, well said. I should just let you speak because you can articulate things a lot better than me. Yeah, and so obviously, Josie put the link in there. Go givesengo.com / or / whatever that is. ZA Anderson. So yeah, and also as I said, we've got to give away $35. Either you can donate straight to here, or you can get something from the store as well. So don't be shy. Say hello in chat. So you get automatically entered. I wish I could do more, but I'm a small channel, but we'll always prevail and fight for Zach and best we can. And obviously, we just come back here to law and crime. A jury has found obsessed ex-boyfriend Zachariah Anderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide in the killing of Rosario Gutierrez Jr. He's also been found guilty of stalking and hiding a corpse. I just put that in there because, again, why do you have to put obsessed ex-boyfriend Zachariah Anderson? I mean, you don't need to put that in there. He's been, found guilty. Just leave it out. I just don't like it.
Because they want to plug their own headline. That's it.
Yeah.
More clicks.
But I put another one in with it because this man is a legend and he's someone that we all love and he's someone that you should be following because he is amazing. It's Nicholas Starrow. Nicholas went straight in there. Congratulations, your narrative of ignoring innocent to proven guilty succeeded. And he said some other bunch of stuff. But those are the content creators you should be following, not the arseholes that we've just advertised here. So be careful who you actually do follow, the biases and stuff like that. People like Nicholas is fantastic. Go and support him. I love Nicholas, and he's just a straight shooter. So I want to give him a shout out when I saw that. So shout out to Nick.
Nick's a gem. We love Nick so much. He's a hell of a man. He's a really good person.
Yeah, I agree. What we go next? Okay, so this one. So this is one of the things that I sometimes play. I wanted to play this. This is the reason, when people say, why do you do this? Why do you care? Why do you, and Matt said it earlier on, he watched a similar clip to this. This is the why. This is why he thought, Jesus Christ, this guy is innocent. it's the man himself. This really touched me. It's only a small 2-minute clip, but this really touched me, and I wanted to play it. It's a little bit out of sync, guys. Apologies for that, but this is the man we're doing all this for. So here he is.
I don't want to go into all the details of the case. We got a lot of dispute about what was said, what was portrayed. I think the facts, with a little more scrutiny, tell a much different story than what the jury decided. And I don't think that things played out fairly. I think that there's some things that are not just from our side, questions outstanding for both sides. And I don't think the court accomplished what it set out to do in any means if both sides are left with so many questions. And I don't think, without going into the case, I don't think we really got to the heart of the matter. What I can tell you is, I didn't kill anybody. What I can tell you is, I didn't stalk anybody. And what I can tell you is, I didn't dispose of any corpse. It's really weird to be sentenced for or convicted for it and soon to be sentenced for it, but I didn't, Judge. It kind of feels like there's no turning around on that now. I don't really know how to make a better statement of my opposition, but I disagree. I'm innocent. I don't know what you're going to decide. I don't know what you're all going to weigh. I don't even know how to represent my own character without having my family be able to testify on my behalf. But they do have some things that are relevant. I mean, even during the trial, there was a gentleman who tried to come up and talk to me. I think there was a comment about how now everything has happened during the trial. When he made that attempt, nobody really knew who he was, and I do know who he is. He's a man who I saved from assault in jail. He's actually related to one of the jailers, and my heart went out to him because I know he appeared inebriated, and I know he struggles. And I know he was coming up here to talk to me because we got along so good. But those tiny little moments throughout somebody's life, nobody accounts for those. But what they do a really good job of is making up all of these things that they want you to believe.
Yeah, it was only a clip of that. I didn't want to go too deep into it because, there's a lot to it. But I just don't want us to ever forget why we're here, what we're doing it for. I get me every time that does. And I like to play it now and again just because, I mean, as much as I love you, Sol, it's his voice is so impactful to me to hear him say that, and the whole, I'm innocent. I did, that hits me every time. So, and it does remind me every time why we do what we're doing. So, yeah, moving on from that. Thank you for all the shout outs in chat. There's one more bit I wanted to play. No more video, don't worry. We touched upon all of this, the blood stuff. I had it planned to do it now, but we've done it all. So there's one more bit I got. Could Zach have driven there and back in time? So, yeah, sorry, Julie. It was a bandwidth thing. I just couldn't get it in. It was my fault. I do have the full clip. It's just I couldn't get it in. So sorry. Apologies for that. We have not that one. This. If I just put this on screen. I think Jen put this together. If she didn't, we'll give her credit anyway.
She did.
I got this from the website, directly from the website. I just copy and pasted it onto this one, really, because I wasn't sure. My industry played up a little bit, so I wasn't sure if it would work. So shout out to Jen. I'll let Sol go through it, but people are asking about timeline, how did he not do it and stuff like that. What Jen's put together is they go on the website as well. There's a map, there's everything showing all these things. But this is a snippet from there. So if you don't mind just going through some of this, just to explain why basically it's impossible for him to do it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this already. So the
Yeah.
last phone orientation change for Rosalia was at 10:10 p.m. The state alleged that Rosalia was killed at roughly 10 p.m. So in 10 to 15 minutes, Zach had murdered the man, loaded him up, wrapped up the crime scene, put the phone and the money clip and the credit cards in the freezer, and wrapped up the carpet, moved the furniture very carefully. All of those things. The diffuser was running, according to them, when he left. It ran for 39 hours, according to the police, at least. And then he somehow managed to avoid, on any route by the Wisconsin DOT, the 33 to 45, depending on which route you take, freeway cameras, traffic cameras that would have registered
Cameras, man.
license plate. His license plate, at least bare minimum, a license plate hit in that time. Now, the police did actually request from the DOJ. Now, I've had one comment say that they didn't ask for these cameras because they erase afterwards, but they asked for license plate hits on any of the cameras in the DOJ. That includes bus stops, traffic cams, like on the freeway, and all of those other intersection cameras, all those things that exist. They also checked gas station footage from a select number of sites that's on a different map, and a number of other places. Not a single camera, not one source of video.
Right.
I said DOJ.
He made it,
I meant
he made it
DOJ.
past all those automatic
All of them.
license plate readers. They're all
all
over
of
the place.
everywhere, all of them somehow, like a superhero, managed to teleport his vehicle all the way down to Kenosha and all the way back without being seen by a single one, not a single one. And it actually, the map routes it out. So it says the fastest route is 1 hour and 1 minute. But in order to avoid cameras, because we've already discussed it, not a single one had a hit of his license plate, it would have taken the fastest route, non-freeway, 1 hour and 24 minutes. That doesn't mean that that did not include any of the other physical cameras or doorbell cameras or school cameras or gas station cameras that they also looked for and checked. None of them had footage of Zach during the time that they alleged that this occurred. Neither of his vehicles were seen driving. It was not a thing. So in this situation, you have a minimum of 1 hour and 24 minutes as the drive time to avoid the freeway, a minimum, which places him at home later than 11:19. That makes it 11:34 p.m. by the time he would have made it home. At the bare minimum, perfect driving.
Right.
It is not physically possible. The timeline the state presented is impossible to fulfill. That is reasonable doubt.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
Because on top of that, like Jen said, they allege that he used the van. The state asserted that the van was absolutely involved in this crime. That was the state's case. That's what they claim. So for those of you that think that he used another van or another vehicle, how? By what means? No evidence of that ever presented. Now you're just making things up. You're fabricating and making excuses for the state. That is a presumption of guilt. You have to presume innocence. That's what our whole justice system is structured around. This doesn't make sense. It's not possible. They found the wrong man. Justice for Rosalio has not been served. Please understand that. For everyone out there, people that are in the anti-Zach camp, justice is that they found the person that committed the crime and they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law. All of these things that we've discussed are reasonable doubt. I was not physically there. I wasn't snuggled up with Zach on that night, cuddling him in bed. I don't know where he was during that window. What I'm doing is looking at the evidence. I'm looking at the information presented. And I'm telling you that there's reasonable doubt because this is what was in the court. This is the evidence. And on our website, we back it up with the court documentation of what their investigation was. If you want to call my bluff, I invite you to do it. It's all there.
They won't. They won't fucking do that, man.
No. I think sometimes I see on Twitter people say, yeah, but you've got to say all these things because you're his brother. But you've been I believe you when you say this. I don't think that you say these things for effect. If you genuinely thought, Sol, that Zach was guilty as his brother, you would not be fighting this hard for him because it'd be impossible to fight for it because the evidence would be all against him. The reason you're fighting is because your brother is innocent. The reason I'm streaming this tonight, I believe in your brother. The reason people are in chat, they all believe in Zach. They believe in his innocence. So, although people, my viewers, I know I'm not going to name people, but we know some people dismissed it, being stubborn, don't want to look at the evidence. But we implore people, please look at the evidence. Please look at what there is. Go to the website. We're going to put the website again in the chat because it's such an I'm not even kidding. I'm saying this about Jen, but what she's created there is you've got the Wrongful podcast. You can listen to it. You can go to the website and look at that. All the information's there. Make your own minds up. Just take a few hours. Just go in there and look at it. Look at all the evidence. What was submitted in court, what wasn't submitted in court. Like, look at the blood that was in the crime scene. Look at what the van looked like. Look at everything. And if you still think he's guilty, then fine. But I just don't see it. Please, please, please look at it. And trust me, I can tell you now, Solomon would not be fighting this hard for his brother unless he genuinely thought he was innocent. And I certainly wouldn't be pushing this so hard if I didn't believe that he was innocent. So I just want that message out there that you're not doing this because he's your brother. Obviously, you are doing it because he's his brother, but you believe in his innocence. So, as you should, in my opinion. So, and not all these people in chat are all wrong. So, and it's the reason we came to you, Matt, because I was so disheartened after the Zach case that people told me about your case, Matt, and how justice should work.
They got to stop listening to the gossip. It's poison.
Yeah.
It's black magic. The stuff that you have to look at is in trial. That's it. Anything outside of trial, just don't pay attention to it because it's not. In my case, the law worked because they didn't allow in the gossip. If they would have allowed that gossip in, I would be in prison. There's no doubt about it. Stick with what's been presented at the trial. That's what you got. And just people that believe that he's guilty are listening to the crap, the comments, the podcasts, kind of like the true crime people. You got to stay away from that stuff because it's literal black magic. I call it. 'Cause I don't like rumors. I don't like people talking about other people when they're not there. I can't stand it anymore because it's so damaging. It's so damaging. It's horrible.
Just to imprint as well about the podcast, Hens is one of my followers. She's followed me for a couple of months now. She's amazing. She's all about justice. She does a lot of stuff for herself in Cincinnati for local people. I love Hens. She's running for county council. She's amazing. She'd never heard about Zach or anything until she started coming to the stream. She is fully invested herself in the podcast. She loves the podcast. She's learned all about Zach through the podcast. So it's well worth listening to this podcast. And if you think, if you're out there with a small channel or if you've got a small following on X and stuff, don't worry about it. Just post these links out. Because if you can reach one person about this case, just one, if I wasn't advertising about this, you got SEN, Hens, and all these people that would not be maybe aware of Zach. So just keep sharing, keep pushing stuff out, share Claudia's stuff. Just imploring you, please keep pushing things out. And we got Julie said, I was so invested in maths by the co-worker asked about it every day. Then Zach's case, and it was on a new level of corruption. Here we are, yeah. just two sides of stone. So yeah. In terms of anything else, Sol, have you got anything you want to maybe add to the? I know it's been a long stream for you, and I appreciate you with you're ill as well. So, but any other updates from Zach or anything you want to add from your side?
Well, I think that there's a couple of important things.
Yeah.
Along the lines of what you just talked about is, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's really important to continue to share and to see if other people would also share, because you have no idea who in their life might be affected in a similar way. And if you can share and continue to present the case out to the world and get other people to also share, to get them interested in how wrong the justice system can get a case and what needs to change, at some point the right person is going to see it. The next windfall, whoever it is, right? Because that's the idea. Like, we're all 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon, right? Or it's in Hollywood, somebody is 6 movies away from Kevin Bacon. That's the game that you play, right? But we're 6 degrees away from someone, anyone. And statistically, it's actually pretty true. So we're asking you to continue to talk about the case, to continue to talk about how unjust it is. Zach's not alone in wrongful conviction. I cited the statistic earlier, the 4 to 6% of all convictions. For those of you that saw me give my victim impact statement on, I think it was Legal Vices, it's a hard read, but it's true. According to the Exoneration Project and the Innocence Project, there's thousands and thousands of Americans that are locked in prison. False confessions, bad evidence. This is not a unique situation. And it's up to us, the citizens at large, the people, to hold these individuals accountable for exactly how they execute the law and why they execute the law. They are our servants, not the other way around. They are there to do justice for us, the citizenry. That's why we, the people, must hold them accountable. So when the people in power are abusing their power and violating our rights as citizens, I believe that they should be stripped of their power and punished to the fullest extent of the law. And what I'm talking about is true reform for all of us as citizens, to push for it, because it's important that our rights and our integrity, our safety and security is maintained, because we're on the precipice of tyranny. And it's closer than you think.
If you can get arrested and charged with murder with no evidence, it's dangerous. This is the most dangerous thing you can think of. They don't need evidence to arrest you and take you to trial. We're fucked if they start doing. Whoever they decide what they want to get, no evidence, just bring them to trial. So that's scary, man. That's really scary.
So David, Dylan, you had the other slide. My response to the commentary about me fighting for Zach. And I compiled a list. I think I did like 26 of them, and then Jen added a few more to my list too, or 25 of them, or whatever it was. The reasons why I fight for my brother are on this. I don't know if you can zoom in.
I can't. That's the problem. That's why I left it out.
Bummer.
Yeah.
I'll retweet it, and you can retweet it too. But you can look through.
Yeah.
These are all evidence-based, reasonable doubt, logical reasons for why I fight for Zach, is that aren't related to him being my brother, and reasons why everyone else should also do that, should really look at it and think critically about it. We can't settle for the subpar performance of a prosecutor. We can't allow the government to steal a man's life based on rumors. We should not be complacent in that. So I thought that you could zoom in. My bad.
Hang on, maybe I'm trying to work something out. Bear with me. I'm on Twitter now. Trying to do this. Damn, that won't let me either. Let's see if this is a little bit clearer. So hang on. I'll remove that. I don't think it is, but share screen. No, it's not. And it won't let me zoom in on it. No. One of my haters. Right. You're welcome. I really don't think your channel's going to take off, but you can't say I tried. That's my motivation. I put that my banner. Fuck you, Carla. Hang on. Yeah, I can't get that. I am so sorry, Solomon. I literally can't zoom in
That's
on
okay. That's all right.
it.
Trying to think if I can.
Have you? Oh, because can you share it from your end on here?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, no worries. It's fine. Because I think you can now. So if you're able to, you can have full control.
Yeah, here. Let me just share.
So this was going to be my final slide, but I couldn't zoom in. So sorry, apologies, guys. A couple of blips, but
All right, I am now sharing it.
here we go. Yeah, I can add you on stage. There we are. It's all on you.
So I have a very, very long list.
It's important
of items of very important things. So for those of you out there that have already seen this, I'm sorry, but let's just start at the top. Number one, there's no evidence Zach ever presented that placed him at Rosalio's apartment whatsoever. The state claimed that there was a physical altercation, and miraculously, not a single piece of evidence connected Zach to the crime scene. Not one piece. There are 2 DNA alleles found on Rosalio's phone. His phone was discovered in the freezer that did not match Rosalio, Celia, or Zach. All ruled out. Somebody else was there. The police never actually bothered to look into it. They didn't bother. Even though it's exculpatory evidence and it was discussed in trial, the jury also missed it. They did not present any evidence that Zach ever stalked Rosalio. Not a single piece of evidence that was ever presented that ever connected Zach to any stalking behaviors for Rosalio. Nothing. No deposition, no witness, nothing. They should have dropped the charge. It was never presented. The judge actually made the argument that he should drop the charge when they asked for the deferred verdict, but decided to leave it to the jury instead. So they tried to spin, like looking up someone on social media, looking into their criminal history is not stalking. They tried to spin it like it was stalking. That's not stalking behavior. Rosalio does have a criminal history, and that should and would concern a reasonable parent that is going through a custody dispute. The DNA testimony from the spec in the van was improper and unscientific. That's 100% true. We already discussed that at great length. Veteran DNA expert Tiffany Roy wrote a letter admonishing Lisa Treffinger for her improper testimony. That is true as well. An official complaint has been filed with the Wisconsin Department of Justice about her testimony, how improper it was, because it actually undermines the reliability of experts from state crime labs all over the nation. When this is what's televised, when this type of testimony, if they're willing to give improper testimony, it affects the integrity of the entire group of professionals. The speck in the van was not blood. period. There was no testing to verify the source of the DNA from the speck of the van. It means that it was improper to testify that it is blood. As an expert, it cannot be determined to be blood. That is a very important distinction. So it's not blood, it's never determined to be blood, and it is improper to refer to it as blood. And that is true. Scientifically, that is true. They never actually verified it. There were around a dozen reddish-brown stains in the van that tested negative for blood all over the van. There's an identical substance in appearance to the speck that the van splashed and smeared in several other locations of the van. The substance was all tested and tested negative for blood altogether. In both looking for DNA and presumptive blood testing, there was no hit on it at all. There's no reaction at all in the van to any of the presumptive testing. If there's enough blood to spill in the back of the van to require the carpet to be removed, it is reasonable to believe that some of the blood would have gotten onto or into the hardware, like those brackets for the rear seat, or for the latch of the rear lift gate. There was no reaction on any of those surfaces anywhere in the van. Nothing. The van was obviously not meticulously cleaned. There's dirt, dust, refuse, stains all over the van. There are clear indicators that it was not scrubbed clean. There are also contractor trash bags in the van already. So those of you that believe that buying trash bags was indicative of disposing of a corpse when he already had trash bags, why would that make sense? Why would he suddenly need to buy more trash bags for that purpose when he already had trash bags in the van? That is not sound logic. Rosalio's phone registered directions to Zach's house. Then he turned off his GPS. This opens the door to reasonable doubt for how Rosalio's DNA could have gotten into Zach's van. We already talked about that. He looked up directions to get to Zach's house. The DNA findings could have been touch or transfer DNA in the van from Sadie herself, police investigators, or Zach's kids, improperly handling lab collection, poorly cleaned lab instruments, or incorrect subjective data analysis. So that means that it could have been just contamination from a number of sources. It could have been from Sadie, the kids. It could have even been an error in the crime lab. And because they didn't photograph or videotape their collection or testing process, we don't know that it wasn't corrupted. Sadie planned at least one act of violence to harm Zach. She texted Rosalio, "Poppy, no snitch," and deleted the conversation from her phone when Rosalio offered to teach Zach a lesson and maybe break one of his legs. That is true. That was presented in the court. He said, "Let me call some of my buddies." We don't know that situation didn't blow up in his face, and he went missing because he made that call. No idea. There's a reasonable suspicion that if he's calling people that are willing to commit an act of violence like that maybe he had some echoes of his past coming back to haunt him. Sadie attended family functions immediately before Rosalio's disappearance, and was completely comfortable enough to stand next to Zach and engage in conversations with us, the family. To my own witness, I saw her attend family functions on the weekend of May 2nd, 2020. This is important for us to recognize because stalking requires fear or severe emotional distress in the moment of the activity. This was never presented. They presented that she was post facto afraid, post facto terrified, post facto distressed. And I say that because it was after the incident occurred. It was after she was made aware of Rosalio's disappearance that she was suddenly terrified. Otherwise, she was dismissive, she was rude, she was threatening to Zach, and many other behaviors. Sadie led Zach on to toy with his emotions, calling him Z-Bear, told him she loved him, invited him over for dinner, and asked him why he didn't spend the night. Is this how you treat a stalker or someone that you're terrified of? The answer is no, absolutely not. This is an insane presentation because it was clear that she was very friendly with him. She did, in fact, ask him why he didn't spend the night. She did say goodnight, Z-Bear. Did send him XOXO. Kiss, hug, kiss, hug. All of that all happened. And you're telling me that I'm supposed to buy into the fact that she was terrified of him. I don't believe it. Zach and Sadie were about to go to court for custody of the kids. Zach had started collecting information and writing a journal to bring to court to prove his case against Sadie regarding the child neglect, abuse, and alleged drug use by Sadie. That's true. For those of you that watched the interview last night, the police interrogation last night, that is exactly what he told the investigators. Those were his concerns. He wanted to try and make sure that he had an accurate presentation and any proof that he could possibly gather of her abusing the kids so he could gain custody. It's not an uncommon practice in family court. There was never any proof of a tracker getting employed to follow Sadie or Rosario. All citations of trackers in this case were completely irrelevant. There was never a tracking device that was activated or employed. They never presented any evidence of a tracking device that was ever utilized. They never proved that Zach ever utilized or employed a tracking device to follow Sadie, to track her, or Rosario. This is a red herring. This is a lie, a convenient truth, or a truth that they tried to sell you. They cited a tracker that he allegedly bought. It was ordered on a device that Sadie had free access to. And of course, his default shipping address is his home, so it was received there. We don't know that he even bought it. To be honest, we don't know. And furthermore, this is a situation where he never even employed it. And he talked to me about putting a tracking device in his van and or my truck, because when one of my guys or one of the employees was to use a vehicle, it would be good to know that they were using it for business purposes only. Judicial bias and incompetence was rampant during the court proceedings. Judge Schrader was caught sleeping on the bench and potentially watching live coverage of the trial during the proceedings. Also true. He was allegedly watching Recovery Addict during the trial proceedings. It is alleged that he had it playing on his personal laptop on the bench, watching the commentary on Recovery Addict's live stream. Judge Bruce Schrader allowed other acts evidence, highly prejudicial other acts evidence, into the case to allow the state to assassinate Zach's character. That's true. He allowed the commentary. They try to object about any reference to any firearm because there was no evidence of a firearm being used in this case whatsoever. There was also the commentary about marijuana and allegedly mushrooms that was brought into the state's case. None of that was connected to stalking or to the disappearance of Rosario. Nothing about that was connected to the crime that he was accused of in this case. None of it at all. It was irrelevant, prejudicial, and should have been excluded. But the judge allowed it only to assassinate his character and for no other reason. My niece's story changed repeatedly and was inconsistent with observable data that includes the map on our website of the house and why it doesn't make sense. Her testimony was, she was isolated from Zach and the rest of our family shortly after his arrest, where her memory could be groomed and polluted. The DDA, Angelina Gabrielle, which reading the transcripts, it actually might have been Judge Schrader. I might have misspoken that. Just to be clear, that said that my niece was an easily manipulatable minor witness, and therefore he granted the restraining order, which is really troubling because it also creates a situation where a key witness is allowed alone with an easily manipulatable minor. And oddly enough, that witness was the only person that was going to be able to pollute her testimony to make sure that it was against the defendant, usurping the right to a fair trial. Zach tried to find his smartphone and contacted Sadie about it when he used the Find My Phone app. This is his phone that they alleged that he had planted in her vehicle, the smartphone, the Motorola. Why would he have called her and asked her about the phone? There's a huge logical gap here. One, her testimony to him in text messages was that she stopped by her brother's house where she found the phone and then continued down to Kenosha. If she found the phone in the Mequon area, then why didn't she just turn it off? We know how to turn phones off without even being able to access it. It's not very difficult to hold the power button down and turn off a phone. But she claims in the court case that she drove straight to Rosalio's. So we have conflicting testimony, false testimony given. Zach searched for a Colorado license plate on his computer after he saw Rosalio's truck in Sadie's driveway. He would not have had to Google that information if he had stolen the documents out of the truck. That's very clear. So they presented Google searches that he did on the night that he allegedly, or that he went to Sadie's home on the evening before, the night before my niece's birthday. Later that night, it shows that he was Googling how to look up a Colorado license plate to figure out who owned it. Why would he need that information if he had taken the information out of the truck? He would have names off of it. A huge logical disconnect in the state's case. Multiple witnesses changed their testimony after meeting the DA one by one. So not just one witness changed their testimony, more than one. Minimum 2, if not 3. Michael Gravely was not shy about defrauding the court during the proceedings when he misrepresented evidence and outright lied to the jury. We already talked about this multiple times. It happened repeatedly throughout the trial. He absolutely mischaracterized, cherry-picked, and misrepresented evidence in the case, which is misconduct. It is actually undermining his position as a district attorney, as a prosecutor, and he should be held accountable for it. There's evidence of people being in and outside Rosalio's apartment on Monday, the 18th of May of 2020. So more than one person called in a witness account of someone being in or around. Either they heard an argument in the apartment on the 18th, or they saw a woman smoking on Rosalio's patio. This points to the potential of individuals cleaning up the crime scene the next day and starting the diffuser the next day. All of that pictured in the crime scene photos. We don't know that someone wasn't there that day. And moreover, there were people that said that they did see people there. That's reasonable doubt to believe that the state's timeline is not accurate. Rosalio owed people money. He was behind on rent, behind on child support, was supposed to be in jail. He was supposed to be serving 120 days because he failed to comply with a court order to pay child support. And there was documented tension between him, Michael Campbell, and Dan Spear. Another important fact, also testified to during trial, he was in debt to people. And if there's something that will bring physical harm to you, it is indebting yourself to dangerous people and making bad on those debts. Zach has a bad back and could not deadlift a 280-pound man and carry him out of the apartment. This could not be reiterated enough. There's no evidence of a body being dragged out of the apartment, which means that he would have had to have lifted him up and carry him out. All of that dead weight on his back to get him out of there with no sign of any drag marks, dripping, or anything else with the bloody mess of that crime scene. He had a spinal injury, a well-documented spinal injury that occurred that ended up ending his career at AT&T. And the timeline, which we talked about, was impossible for Zach to make it back to his home by 11/19. It is physically not possible. We already went into that on detail. There was a person that confirmed herself to be at the crime scene during the alleged time of murder to meet with the victim. The police didn't even bother investigating her. They didn't bother downloading her phone. They didn't bother looking into where she was during the time in question, why she was 40 minutes late to the date that she had set when she said that she was leaving her house. Nothing was investigated into her. And she worked for the court in Milwaukee at the time. I don't know if she still does. She may. But she was a clerk in the Milwaukee courthouse. So conveniently, someone that works in the judicial system, they just looked the other way. Never bothered investigating her. Zach's phone records place him at home on the day of the 17th, over an hour away from the crime scene. The phone never left his house. The fact that the police chose to ignore this just because he didn't answer texts, that doesn't mean that he was in Kenosha either. This is a false equivalency. A lack in phone activity or phone location change does not logically mean that he had driven to Kenosha. That's not sufficient. Jealous rage killers, especially in male on unknown male crime, don't typically bludgeon their victims to death. Statistically, bludgeonings occur when two parties know each other well, or in cases of male on female crime. Bludgeoning is an intimate act of rage killing that is too intimate of an act for a rage killer that doesn't know their victim. Male rage killers, above 75% of them, or above 75% of the time, shoot their victim and run. Rage killers don't take the body and don't take a hostage. Every bit of this goes against everything ever documented about criminal psychology. That is really relevant to this case. Is that the mode of death, the way that they describe my brother and his motive for committing this crime doesn't add up with what is normally done in this type of crime. And all of that is all objective data that you can go and look up, verify, and look at yourself. These are very, very strong reasons to identify reasonable doubt in this case and understand that it needs to be looked at in a different light. Sorry, that was a long explanation.
No, but it's a good explanation. It's good though, and this is why I wanted her on. So I did try and get her on, but technical issues. I was having a maths moment. Couldn't get everything to work properly. But thank you for sharing that. I will be sharing it after this stream. Hopefully, Sol, you can share it as well. Matt will share it. If you guys can share these things out with some context as well. We'll do some clips as well of Solomon reading some of these things out. Yeah, just get everything out, and I think that's really, really good. That's why I wanted to use it. I was a bit angry that I couldn't zoom into it properly, but thanks for that. It genuinely is useful to look at all that. And obviously, some people here know all these things, but you got to forget about that. It's the people that know nothing or know a little bit about the trial, but don't know all the information. That's what we need to
And that
target.
this list doesn't even give the shout out to Law Kong, where he's talking about the blood splatter on Rosario's front door, which is adjacent to the mailboxes. So the mail had to have been delivered that Monday, the 18th, and at some point that Tuesday. But the Tuesday is when it was reported in the morning, likely before the mail was delivered. But that Monday, the mail was delivered. And they never even bothered questioning the postal workers to see who delivered the mail and if they saw the blood there to narrow down the time frame. This is gross negligence. And that gross negligence turns into malicious prosecution. And that is an important legal term. Malicious, harmful, damaging, and intentional prosecution of an innocent person without the intent of finding truth.
Matt, what do you think after looking at all that? And because you're still new to this case, obviously, but you have any thoughts?
I've been through similar things. I get it. I understand it. And if you're looking from the outside, it's just hard to believe. But at least I can tell you this, from the inside and been around something like this, everything he just said is definitely possible. I mean, you can't put anything past these people. I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but there are demon people that are in government. They lie. So all of it could be true. All of it. I would, but I'm a bit jaded. So I mean, I believe them, so maybe, I've been through, I just tend to, my whole life now is geared towards this sort of thing. It's like, everything is like, I see the whole world like this now. And we grow up wanting to think, we're told our country and our government, and we say the pledge every day when we're little kids, we get brainwashed into thinking that they're good people. And I'm telling you, they're not. Those people that did this to his brother weren't looking to solve the case. I don't know how many times I can say this. They were just trying to close it. And because he's there and they got his phone records and they got a little bit of history. They built a case on him and it didn't have anything to do with truth or justice. It's a business, man. It's bad. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
I totally, I'm behind him 100% now. Now that he just read that, he's covering everything. If you think he's guilty, debate this guy. Come on and debate him. You won't. No one will, dude. No one will come on and debate you. You got it covered, man.
I mean, I did a stream with Recovery Addict who believes in Zach's guilt, and he had no words. He was completely dumbfounded.
What's
And
he gonna say?
shut down and he said, well, I don't remember the details of the case like that, and I've got to review it. And Scott's a really good guy. He really is. He doesn't mean bad. Like, he really does mean the best. He's just one of the people that was cowed by the prosecution, and I don't fault him for it. Like, he really is a good man. He really intends to do to do good work in presenting it. He's unfortunately just bought the bullshit.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even put his finger on the thing that really was the thing that convinced him of guilt.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying.
I ask all the time, why do you think I'm guilty? No one can explain it to me. And they're not going to be able to explain it to you. I think most people, when they make a decision like that, it's hard for them to switch it around. They or ego gets in the way or something. I don't know. But it's
But I could put my hands up and say, when I looked at it, first of all, I said not guilty for murder, but I did say guilty for stalking, which I could see, from the evidence that was projected. Now, after listening to Solomon and seeing the evidence, I'd like to think that I hopefully Scott's similar, that, if someone presents you with an alternate case or more evidence, you should be able to look at that and go, okay, that's more logical. I can put my hands up and say. So the fact that he thought that he was guilty, fine, but he should be able to go away and look at everything and come back with a new opinion if he wanted to think of things critically. I now know that shows you, though, I'm quite balanced when I think of things, but the way the DA just shoveled all that crap in there, it just bamboozles you, because the main thing for me was that he was not guilty for murder. The stalking, I wasn't even bothered by the stalking. I was like, he's, and that's wrong of me to say that now, but I was just like, so what? He's earned his dues now. It doesn't matter as long as he's not guilty for murder. But looking back, it's like, no, it all matters. It all matters. And listening to Saul on various other platforms speaking about it, that's how I 100% know that he's not guilty of stalking as well. So hopefully Scott is open to that. He's got a great channel. He's got a big channel, big following. And by the way, Recovery Addict wasn't one of those bad ones that I put tweets or anything like that. He wasn't one of them at all. But yeah. Josie's here. He's not stalking anyone. No, I say now. I say that as well. In the moment, though, as I was watching it, I could see why they were going with that. Because again, what you said, Sol, about he was peering in windows and stuff like that. Now we know now that's not true. But in the moment, that's how we came across that he's peering in and stuff like that. So some of it might have been believable. Now I know it's full of shit. But at the time, it sold me a little bit. But yeah, that's just me trying to be transparent and actually sticking it for Scott a little bit, just to know that as long as he can go back and look at the evidence again, I think hopefully he'll have a different opinion.
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Scott was very respectful, very kind, in all of our interactions, even during our interview. The only complaint that I had for him was that they were shutting down, like, his mods in his chat were shutting down the FCA supporters as they asked questions and stuff like that. And I gave him some critical feedback about that. And I said, well, that was really not cool, because there's a huge following of people that came there to discuss and to really, like, also call into question the idea of his guilt, which is an important part of the dialogue. And they really were defeated and shut down by your mods. And so, we've talked since, and we're talking about doing an update stream on Recovery Addict stream, and he's, I encouraged him to listen to Wrongful before we got back together, and he's genuinely, he doesn't mean malicious intent. Is he doing well? Does he have a pretty loyal following? Is he using it to pay his bills? Yeah, of course he is. That's why he's doing trial coverage. That's why he does the commentary and kind of the kitschy things that he does with the phone calls and like it's kind of like a radio show that he runs on his own, just broadcasting on YouTube, and that's good. That's more power to him. But I can tell you that he's been very respectful, and that makes a difference, because there are a lot of people out there that aren't. The man bun commentary, the people that will try and attack our character because I am fighting for my brother. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think, well, hopefully, you get the opportunity to speak with him again and other people as well. Shout out, see a lot of people going after other content creators to try and get you on those channels. Hopefully we can get you on a lot more channels. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm grateful for the time you both given. It's nearly 3 hours, guys. I do appreciate it, especially you battling the illness as well. Before you do go, though, I'm going to put Josie on the spot. Josie, have you got names and numbers and stuff? Because if you don't worry. I can do something offline, but if you do, then I'll get all to pick 5 numbers. But I need to know what the numbers. Happy days. What
She
are the
does.
numbers of? One
Do
to
I
what?
pick the?
One to
Do I?
what?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
picked the number, but she has the list. How many numbers do we got?
yeah, that's what we're waiting for. She's got. Um, well, we'll see what she's. 1 to 40. There we are. 40 people.
5 numbers, huh?
5. 5 numbers.
Oh boy. Let's see. 13, auspicious number. The baker's dozen.
Yeah.
Just a quick nod out to Baker. Why not? 37. 17.
Gotta have 17, man.
Gotta have 17. The rule of sevens. Let's do 7. And let's see.
One more to go.
I got to pick one in the 20s. I feel like I've got to do them justice. So, let's do number. Let's do 23.
Ooh, I thought you could go 24. So
I was
those are.
I was trying for prime numbers. So.
Jen says 27.
Divisible by 9.
So Josie, if you could type in who's won, who the 5, and then we'll you guys can contact me. I'll PayPal you $35 each for that to spend in Zach's store, or directly if you want to directly donate it to the donation fund for Zach. You can do that as well. Just a little bit something to try and get stuff out there. We'll give 13 is ways up. This ways up. Happy days. So congratulations. Oh, 7 is Claudia.
Claudia.
That's nice.
Lucky 7. Look at that.
Look, well, we're lucky as Josie as well for doing this. I appreciate her doing this. I asked her to do it because I was like, I've got so many things going on here in the background. I can't. Sandra, 44. Well done, Sandra.
Congratulations.
If you guys want to message me on Twitter, your PayPal. If you don't have PayPal, we might be a little bit fucked. But I'm sure we can arrange something. I can ship it to Josie or something, and she can pass it on, something like that. Katie S. as well. Congratulations. Most of these are English. So you must have PayPals, guys. And then finally, is that it? So Katie, Sandra.
37.
37. Carleen, congratulations, Carleen, as well. So Josie's a hero secret, you're right. So if you guys want to message me on Twitter or reach out on Facebook, whatever is easy for you guys, just get in touch with me. You want $35, Katie. You can either buy something from the merch store for Zachariah or donate it straight to the donate page or whatever you want to do, or I can do it for you if you wanted. So it's fine. Get in touch with me on Twitter, on X, then, or so I'm Dylan12D on Twitter. Get in touch with me, or Discord is fine as well. I'm on the Zachariah Discord. Message me on Discord as well. So with that,
to Claudia, schlafen Sie sehr gut.
da iawn, Claudia. That's been Welsh as well. So
Kleine Maus, schlafen Sie sehr gut. It's I just said, sleep well, sleep good.
oh,
She's
cysgan well
her
cysgan
daughter.
da Claudia. Yeah, cysgan da Claudia. Poor ti. That's been Welsh. Sleep well as well in Welsh. Good luck to you. So with that, yeah, easy for you to say. So congratulations and thanks, Dylan, for your generation. No, it's all good. I wish I could be more, guys. But I can only do it because you're you coming here, being members and stuff like that. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you to you both, Matt. We've done a slog today. It's been a 6-hour journey today. So I appreciate you, man. And Sol, as always, I always appreciate having you on the channel. As I say, the intelligence goes up. So
Come on.
I have to dumb it down. Monday, I've got to dumb it right back down. Do you know what I mean? So, so appreciate you. So, I know something. I never win anything. I will spend double for Zach. There we are. Send me a PayPal. They spend double. So thank you, guys. So with that, to everybody, appreciate you all. Hopefully you can share the stream out.
Nice meeting you, brother. Good luck with
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you, Josie, as well for that. Everybody, see you later. Take care of yourselves. Free Zachariah, as always. And see you on the other side. Remember to share stuff about Zachariah. Take care, guys. Ta-ra.